Chapter 444. Up in the tall tower, Gao Yangyu and the old man beside him heard a heart-wrenching scream from the dust-filled wrestling ring. The two of them could not help but reveal smiles. The old man quickly said, "Congratulations, City Lord. You finally dealt with this brat." Based on that sound, he must have lost at least one arm. Gao Yangyu had a relaxed expression. He smiled and said, "Naturally, the person I found is more reliable than that Bai Lishi you found. The 40,000 medial-grade spirit stones were not spent for nothing." Knowing that Gao Yangyu was in a good mood, the old man flattered, "City Lord's eyes are naturally far-sighted, able to see 1,000 kilometers away. When you make your move, you hit the nail on the head, eliminating any future problems." "Ha ha. You really know how to talk. However, I like it." "Ha ha. Come, let's go and take a look at the information on the bets." Gao Yangyu laughed loudly. Just at this moment, the dust in the wrestling ring slowly settled. The two of them stopped and turned around, preparing to see Xiao Chen's sorry state. However, the situation in the wrestling ring was beyond their expectations. One of Bai Zhan's arms was broken, and he lay on the ground in pain. Xiao Chen had a faint smile on his face. He looked calmly at the two people in the tall tower, as if nothing had happened to them. The smiles on the two's faces froze. The old man's body trembled slightly as he said in a quivering voice, "City Lord, it seems like, the one who got crippled is, the person you invited." Bang! Gao Yangyu's expression turned furious. He kicked the old man's chest and said angrily, "This old man has eyes. Do I need you to tell me?" Scram! The old man's face was filled with pain as he complained in his heart. The ribs on his chest had not fully recovered yet. Now, they were all broken again. Humph! When Gao Yangyu saw Xiao Chen's faint smile, he snorted coldly. Then, he smacked the window heavily again. Gao Yangyu turned around and walked to the western corner of the room. The old man on the ground just got up. Gao Yangyu's eyes were filled with disgust when he thought about what the old man said about farsighted, able to see 1,000 kilometers away. Gao Yangyu kicked the old man again, knocking him into the wall and causing him to faint. Trash! If you had not gone to find that Bai Lishi, we would not have waited until today to deal with that brat. When Gao Yangyu arrived at the western corner, he looked at the 7 cultivators with extremely strong auras. In the end, his gaze landed on an old man with white hair and beard. He said indifferently, "Old Bai, I'll need you to make a move earlier this time. Help me kill him tomorrow." Old Bai slowly opened his eyes and a bright light shot out from his eyes. He said in a calm voice, "As you wish." Bai Zhan. Anyone who went to Desolate City's wrestling ring would be familiar with this name. The Desolate City was the link that connected the 4 great empires. It was one of the 2 great hearts of the Sky Martial Continent. It was as famous as the capital of the Great Jin Empire, the Wind City. Since Bai Zhan was able to make a name for himself there was no need to doubt his strength. However, it was unexpected that he was an expert in boxing. When the dust settled, Bai Zhan fell at Xiao Chen's hands, crippling one of his arms. His life would be ruined in Longyang Island's wrestling ring. The one who ended all of this was the great Qin youth who still had a calm and indifferent expression, causing everyone to look down on him. The matches continued. Xiao Chen also figured out how Gao Yangyu dealt with him. Gao Yangyu would send an expert to deal with Xiao Chen every day for the first match. As long as Xiao Chen could injure Xiao Chen severely in the first match, he would continue to lose the next few matches. This was the best way to conserve resources. Gao Yangyu probably did not have enough resources on hand. He could not possibly place everyone on Xiao Chen. In this selection, there was also Ding Fengqiu and Jiang Zimo, peak geniuses like them. If they broke their 60 consecutive victories, they would definitely die. If Xiao Chen managed to break his 60 consecutive victories, there would be horrifying bets placed on him. No matter how rich he was, he would not be able to afford it. Hence, in the following matches, Xiao Chen did not intend to continue using his saber. He continued to use his vital chi and the modified Great Dragon Tiger Fist to fight. Like the previous day, Xiaochen won every match in a sorry state. As of now, he had more than 30 victories. As long as he won a few hundred, he would be able to obtain more than 100,000 medial-grade spirit stones. Naturally, those who could afford half the challenge fee were not mediocre. Otherwise, they would not have squandered their money so casually. Xiaochen's victories were even more arduous than the previous day. The wounds on his body were already horrifying. However, as long as he could endure, and his opponent was not a peak fist master, Xiaochen would persist in using only his vital chi. After the firmament body tempering art reached small perfection, his vital chi had increased by 20,000. Although it was not obvious, Xiaochen could feel the improvement. Compared to the previous day, Xiaochen's comprehension of the increase in his vital chi had become even deeper. Fight! 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 Holding on to the thought of winning, Xiaochen persevered with the sound of the war drums. As long as his opponent was not defeated, he would not fall. Complete victory. After 18 matches, Xiaochen obtained complete victory once again. His winning streak now reached 46. Although Xiaochen was in a sorry state and covered in wounds, his eyes remained calm. He did not care about the crowd's astonishment and disbelief. Xiaochen dragged his somewhat fatigued body over to the gray-robed old man and received the 13800 medial-grade spirit stones that he had obtained today. This was a crazy number. This was the charm of consecutive victories in the arena. Those who did not have a winning streak would not be able to do so. Even though these people had obtained 17 victories today, they had only obtained 50,000 medial-grade spirit stones. Compared to people like Xiaochen who had obtained consecutive victories, they were far from it. If Xiaochen continued winning, the number of spirit stones he obtained tomorrow, the day after, and the day after that would reach an even crazier number. The expression on the gray-robed old man's face twitched a few times. It was clear that he felt pained. However, he still smiled bitterly and said, "Congratulations on obtaining 46 consecutive victories." Xiaochen nodded gently and thanked the gray-robed old man. Then, he ignored everyone's gazes and walked out of the wrestling ring, heading for his courtyard. The internal injuries that Xiaochen had suffered today were more severe than the previous 2 days combined. It would be difficult for him to recover in a short time by relying on his essence. Xiaochen had no choice but to take out the spirit herbs for treating injuries that he had obtained from the herb garden on Qianren Island. He took out the spirit herbs that were 500 years old and above. Then, Xiaochen categorized them according to how they treated internal and external injuries. Finally, he chose 2 700-year-old spirit herbs that did not clash with each other. Then, he decocted them and consumed them. After that, Xiaochen sat cross-legged and circulated his essence to speed up the release of the medicinal energy. With the assistance of the spirit herbs and Xiaochen's somewhat monstrous physique, the wounds on his skin healed at a visible rate. The wounds on his skin were slowly healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The internal injuries and blocked qi and blood in his body were also slowly clearing up. After 2 hours, Xiaochen opened his eyes and vomited a mouthful of black blood. He immediately felt much more relaxed, his internal injuries had completely recovered. Looking at the remaining spirit herbs on the table, Xiaochen said softly, "Spirit herbs are indeed good stuff." The internal injuries that would have required at least a week were completely healed in 2 hours with the assistance of these 2 spirit herbs. Unfortunately, there are too few of them. There are still 2,000-year-old spirit herbs. I will leave them for the day after tomorrow and tomorrow. After the wrestling ring ends on the last day, it will not affect the overall situation. After Xiaochen left the room and ate dinner, he started his daily routine. He carefully simulated the fights that happened during the day. This was especially so for the fight with Baijian. After he simulated it several times, the conclusion he came to was somewhat depressing. If Xiaochen did not use the lunar shadow saber, he would not be a match for a peak fist master like Baijian, no matter how he modified the Great Dragon Tiger Fist. This made Xiaoqin even more determined to obtain a peak Earth-ranked fist technique or palm technique. Only then would he be able to bring out his strong vital qi and physical body perfectly. The night deepened and the silver moon climbed up the treetops, sending down a gentle light. Xiaoqin sat in the courtyard and started to infuse the comprehensions he gained during the day into the firmament body tempering art's fourth layer. Using pure vital qi to fight, comprehending the wonders of cultivating the physical body during battle was like Bai Lishi had said, it allowed one to improve very quickly. Every day after the fights, Xiaoqin would gain a new understanding of vital qi. Now, he could cultivate the firmament body tempering art's fourth layer with greater proficiency. Xiaoqin finally understood how Bai Lishi managed to cultivate the fourth layer in 2 months. Aside from talent, Bai Lishi's several dozen years of combat experience with vital qi was not something Xiaoqin could compare to. Time slowly went by. In the quiet night, there were the cries of insects, birds, or people whispering to each other. While it looked peaceful, it was actually very noisy. In the end, whether it was quiet or not depended on a single thought in one's heart. There was no distinction between day and night. During the past few days, Xiaoqin cultivated day and night. He seemed to have comprehended something in terms of mental state, becoming calmer and steadier than before. Bang! When the sun rose on the second day, Xiaoqin opened his eyes. The third acupoint on his left hand exploded open and turned into a strand of azure-colored dragon qi filling his left arm. A light flashed in Xiaoqin's eyes as he looked at the third acupoint on his arm. Xiaoqin revealed a joyful smile. He muttered to himself, I opened another acupoint. It looks like I can open 2 more acupoints before I reach great perfection. If I reach consummation, I might be able to open all 12 acupoints on my left arm. When Xiaoqin arrived at the wrestling ring, he continued to cultivate as usual. The participants in the spectator stands who had mocked Xiaoqin for the past few days did not know what to do. They felt very conflicted in their hearts. No matter what they said, they could not erase Xiaoqin's glorious 46 consecutive victories. If they continued to say that Xiaoqin was ignorant and had low talent, they would be slapping themselves in the face. Even a foolish person like Xiaoqin, with such low talent, managed to obtain 46 consecutive victories. What about the people that they did not? Wouldn't that make them even more ignorant and have even lower talent, even worse than trash? Yun Ping said with some hatred, I don't believe that he can still obtain consecutive victories today. How can an ignorant person who is cramming at the last minute obtain 50 consecutive victories? Chapter 445. He is just lucky. How can someone from the great Qin nation obtain more than 50 consecutive victories? That's right. Why are you pretending to be noble and virtuous? He will eventually taste defeat. Everyone felt jealous. When they heard Yun Ping's words, they all agreed. When Xiaoro saw this, she felt very angry. She said, Senior sister, how can they do this? To think they are the outstanding talents of the various places. They do not have any magnanimity at all. Xia Xian smiled faintly and said, You will understand when you see more of them in the future. Xia Xian had been out adventuring since the age of 14. She had seen too much of the dark side of the world. The things that Xiaoro saw were just a drop in the bucket. They could no longer cause any ripples in Xia Xian's heart. Xiaoro looked at Xiaoqin, who was immersed in cultivation. She asked, Senior sister, do you think that fellow will be able to obtain consecutive victories today? Xia Xian shook her head slightly, indicating that she did not understand. It was hard to say. Xia Xian had a draw yesterday, so her winning streak had ended. The people who fought yesterday were all peak martial kings. Furthermore, they did not lack combat experience. Xia Xian had experienced it herself. She did not believe that Xiaoqin's victories could be explained by luck. Xiaoqin was strong. However, when Xia Xian saw how difficult it was for him to win every match, she could not see through Xiaoqin. It seemed like if he could continue winning, he would lose the next match. She could not understand him at all. Ding Fengqiu and Jiang Zimo looked at Xiao Chen with unfathomable gazes. Their hearts were filled with doubts. However, Pei Xiaoxian ignored Xiao Chen. He did not care about him at all. He walked over to Jiang Zimo and smiled, "Brother Jiang, with our strength, we should be able to continue winning today." Jiang Zimo shook his head and said, "It is hard to say. 48 consecutive victories is a threshold. The experts hired by the wrestling ring should be coming out soon. If we continue winning like this, the spirit stones we win are small. However, the spirit stones from the people outside will be enough to bankrupt Gao Yangyu." Pei Xiaoxian did not care and said, "Let's wait and see. Unless a half-step martial monarch comes out, I do not believe that anyone can defeat me." Jiang Zimo smiled gently and did not say anything. Jiang Zimo had seen many peak experts below half-step martial monarch. There were many such people in the myriad fiend palace alone. With Pei Xiaoshuan's attitude, he would definitely lose today. The spectator stands in the Colosseum were filled with people. There were even situations where 2 or 3 people were sitting on the same seat. With Gao Yangyu's promotion, the news that this wrestling ring was the first round of selections for the ancient desolate tower quickly spread. As a result, many cultivators on Longyang Island received the news and rushed over in large numbers. Today's ticket prices had increased by several times, and they were all sold out. The supply could not meet the demand. Moreover, the 4th day of the Colosseum was the true climax of the event. The participants who obtained consecutive victories had already accumulated more than 100,000 medial-grade spirit stones. To be able to afford such a challenge fee, one's own strength was a kind of proof. It could be imagined that the fights would be incomparably intense. The combination of the two resulted in the situation of 2 or 3 people sitting together in the audience seats. 5 participants obtaining 46 consecutive victories at the same time. This is the first time something like this has happened in Wrestling City on Longyang Island. Wrestling City has been around for close to 1,000 years, but the highest winning streak was only 60. Furthermore, that was 100 years ago. This is the first time I've seen so many people obtain 46 consecutive victories. That is normal. Think about who is qualified to participate in the ancient desolate tower selections. How could any of them be mediocre? Let's see who will obtain 60 consecutive victories in the end. I bet half of my wealth on Ding Fengqiu. I bet on Pei Xiaoxian. That fellow can order around spirit beasts. Few people of the same cultivation realm would be a match for him. Ha ha. I bet on Pei Xiaoxian as well. The spirit beasts are undefeatable. With more than 10 spirit beasts surrounding him, it would be hard to break through. Before the wrestling ring started, the discussions about the wrestling ring never stopped. Aside from the ancient desolate tower, most of the discussions focused on who would obtain 60 consecutive victories. Most of the topics were focused on who would be able to obtain 60 consecutive victories. After all, they had bet real money on these people. The victories of these people were closely related to their interests. Dong! As the war drums rang out, the wrestling ring officially started. As the first participant, Yun Ping went up first. I am the great Chu nation's Yun Ping. Everyone, please give me some pointers. After Yun Ping landed, he performed a cupped fist salute in all directions. However, even after a few minutes, no one was willing to go up. This made him feel somewhat embarrassed. As of now, Yun Ping had only accumulated 5 consecutive victories. Defeating him would not give him many spirit stones, so no one was interested in him. After 10 odd minutes, someone came down to challenge him. This person did not even look at Yun Ping and immediately started fighting. Bang! 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 After 100 moves, this person's sword left a 2-centimeter-long wound on Yun Ping's chest. The wound was so deep that his bones and internal organs could be seen. Yun Ping used his trump card and turned the tables at the last moment. However, due to the severe wound on his chest, Yun Ping lost again and again in the next 10 odd matches. Eventually, he lost 17 consecutive matches. Boos came from the entire wrestling ring, making Yunping feel ashamed. The following matches were rather boring, there was nothing to see. Only when Pei Shaoxian went up did thunderous cheers resound in the wrestling ring. Pei Shaoxian smiled faintly, he enjoyed this feeling. He raised his head and said, I am Pei Shaoxian of the beast taming abode. Everyone, please give me some pointers. Xiao. Right after Pei Shaoxian spoke, a stout man wearing black soft armor with a black wolf tattoo on his neck and a mace on his back quickly descended from the spectator stands. This was a stark contrast to Yunping, who had not appeared for 10 odd minutes. I am Tuoba Luyun. I am here to experience your great moves. Pei Shaoxian looked at the mace on Tuoba Luyun's back and the black wolf tattoo on his neck. Then, he touched the ring on his hand and mocked, unexpectedly, you are a barbarian warrior. I have defeated quite a few people. It looks like there will be one more today. However, Tuoba Luyun ignored Pei Shaoxuan's belittling words. After he spoke, he took out the mace on his back. The black wolf tattoo on Tuoba Luyun's neck seemed to come to life as it quickly spread over his face. When Tuoba Luyun's entire face was covered by the wolf tattoo, he suddenly shouted and rushed at Pei Shaoxian. Hu Qi! Tuoba Luyun moved as fast as lightning and swung his mace. The huge mace tore the air in half, it was very mighty. Ignorant. Pei Shaoxian smiled coldly and retreated gently. Then, he raised the ring in his hand and prepared to summon a spirit beast. He only needed 2 hand seals to summon a rank 7 spirit beast. After that, he could summon 2, 3, or 4 spirit beasts. If a rank 7 spirit beast was not enough, he could summon a rank 8 spirit beast. He could easily grind anyone to death. Xiao. However, just at this moment, the wolf tattoo on Tuoba Luyun's body came out and formed the image of a black wolf, encasing Tuoba Luyun. The instant the image of the black wolf appeared, Tuoba Luyun's speed doubled again. Bang! The mace struck Pei Shaoxian, who had not completed the last hand seal. Pei Shaoxian was immediately flung into the air like a sandbag. Pain! Pei Shaoxian vomited a mouthful of blood. He had an extremely pained expression on his face. This strike had broken several of his ribs. Damn it! Why is this fellow so fast? Pei Shaoxian thought in horror. He did not give me any time to summon a spirit beast. Boom! 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 Tuoba Luyun did not give Pei Shaoxian any time to react. His mace moved so fast that not even an afterimage could be seen. In the blink of an eye, Pei Shaoxian was struck more than 10 times. Pei Shaoxian was like a sandbag, easily toyed with by Tuoba Luyun. He could not react at all. Every time Pei Shaoxian tried to form the final hand seal, he would be interrupted by the mace, preventing him from summoning any spirit beasts. It's over. Pei Shaoxian is going to lose. This Tuoba Luyun is simply too fast. Damn it! I should have thought of it long ago. As long as this fellow cannot summon a spirit beast, he will lose half of his strength. To think I even bet 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones on him. Me too. I am in an even worse state than you. I bet 20,000 medial-grade spirit stones, and now, it's all gone. When the spectators saw the situation in the wrestling ring, they all started cursing. This was a serious loss. Up in the tall tower, Gao Yangyu revealed a faint smile. Tuoba Luyun indeed does not feel any pressure when dealing with Pei Shaoxian. Gao Yangyu turned his head back and said to the group of old men at the table, it is time to reap the harvest. How much did you bet on Pei Shaoxian? 2 million medial-grade spirit stones. The smile on Gao Yangyu's face became even wider. If Pei Shaoxian lost, these 2 million medial-grade spirit stones would all be his. Very good. I remember that the next contestant with consecutive victories is Ding Fengqiu, Gao Yangyu continued. The old man leading the group nodded and said, yes, it is indeed Ding Fengqiu. He bet a lot, a total of 6 million meteor-grade spirit stones. Gao Yangyu smiled faintly and said, "The Heavenly Gate defensive sword is indeed not easy to deal with. However, there is still a chance of a draw." Pei Shaoxian was covered in wounds. He weakly returned to the spectator stands. He was severely injured and could not continue fighting, so he could only give up. Pei Shaoxian had lost 18 matches in a row. His expression was very unsightly. The wrestling rings continued. The challengers today were all very strong. As a result, few of them had more than a 50% chance of victory. The crowd finally felt that 60 consecutive victories were not that easy to obtain, even if they were not consecutive victories. After 3 days, the spectators had already figured out their strength and moves. However, they did not know anything about their opponents. If they were like Yunping and were severely injured in the first match, they might end up with consecutive defeats every day. When the crowd saw Pei Shaoxian, who was injured and forced to give up for a day, the unease in their hearts intensified. If even Pei Shaoxian could not avoid such an outcome, then wouldn't it be even more dangerous for them? The crowd started to panic. The waters of this wrestling ring were much deeper than they thought. The crowd looked at Xiao Chen, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating calmly. They sighed and said, "This fellow is really damn calm." Chapter 446. Another person is losing consecutively. How many is this? Including Yunping and Pei Shaoxian, there are already 10. The people fighting today are too strong. Indeed, they have figured out all our moves. Damn it. If this goes on, it will be very difficult to win 60 matches. The matches continued. Aside from the cultivators who still had trump cards up their sleeves, the other outstanding talents ended up in a miserable state. They did not even manage to win 10 matches. Some even lost 18 matches in a row. The atmosphere of the arena became even more horrifying. The gray-robed old man said expressionlessly, "Number 56, Ding Fengqiu." Ding Fengqiu's figure floated up and landed on the wrestling ring. He cupped his hands and said, "Heavenly Sword Gates, Ding Fengqiu seeks everyone's guidance. Ding Fengqiu is finally coming up. He better not lose. I bet 50 or 60,000 meteor-grade spirit stones on him." "Me too. Don't be like Pei Shaoxian. Otherwise, we won't even be able to cry." That should not be the case. The Heavenly Gate defensive sword technique is not clear. Furthermore, he has grasped the technique of using qi as a sword. When the spectators saw Ding Fengqiu enter the wrestling ring, they started discussing him. After all, the number of people who bet on him was much higher than Pei Shaoxuan's. Bang! A middle-aged cultivator wearing battle armor landed firmly on the ground. He waved his hand and 3 palm-sized pagoda shields flew out and danced around him. "I, Mo Yen, am here to seek advice from you." When Ding Fengqiu saw the 3 small pagoda shields, he frowned slightly. Based on the aura of the shields, they seemed to be meteor-grade defensive secret treasures. Using qi as a sword. Ding Fengqiu shouted and 18 qi swords appeared behind him. He pointed forward with 2 fingers. Ding dang. Ding dang. There was a series of clanging sounds as the 3 palm-sized shield flew up, down, left and right, blocking all the sword qi 1 meter away from Mo Yan's body. Ding Fengqiu's expression sank. He could not help but increase his speed. The angle at which he attacked also became more crafty. However, the shields seemed to be able to sense danger automatically. No matter where the qi sword came from above, left, right, or turning, it would be able to block the sharp qi sword at the last moment. Since I cannot find an opening, then I will make one. Using qi as a sword, merge. Ding Fengqiu could not help but become angry after attacking for a long time. A surging sword intent rushed into the sky from Ding Fengqiu's body. There seemed to be countless sword hums in the air, creating a strong wind as they danced around wildly. The 18 qi swords merged into one and pierced toward Mo Yen. Clang clang. With a thought from Mo Yen, one of the palm-sized shields instantly grew to over 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide, covering his entire body. The chi sword pierced the tower's shield, causing clanging sounds. Sparks flew in all directions, and the surging sword intent surged. Mo Yen, who was 1 meter behind the tower's shield, was forming hand seals with both hands. His expression did not look relaxed, and his feet were firmly planted on the ground. Hoochie hoochie. The sword intent was vast and mighty, like a gushing river. Ding Fengqiu controlled the chi sword over and over again, sending it crashing into the tower's shield. Every time the tower's shield crashed into the tower's shield, it kicked up a strong wind. The sword hummed in the wind, giving off a woo-woo sound. The strong sword intent seemed very solid. As the strong wind tried to merge with it, it seemed like it was trying to invade Mo Yen's body. However, they were all blocked by the other 2 palm-sized shields. Interesting. Still not breaking. State of massacre, merge. Ding Fengqiu snorted coldly, and the chi sword immediately turned scarlet. An aura of massacre quickly spread throughout the place. In an instant, the air seemed to solidify. Ding Fengqiu's aura rose to another level. Bang! The scarlet chi sword pierced the tower's shield violently. There was a loud sound, and Mo Yen was knocked back 100 meters along with the tower's shield. Boom! After Mo Yen landed, the force of the sword was transmitted to the ground, creating a huge pit. Although Mo Yen was pale, he did not suffer any major injuries. When Gao Yangyu saw all this, he smiled faintly and said, "It is useless. A regular medial-grade secret treasure would not be able to block your sword." However, when combined with the Mo clan's special secret technique, breaking it will be as difficult as ascending to heaven. When the spectators saw the fight enter a stalemate, they all started to feel anxious. Even the drumbeats, which normally sounded very passionate, sounded very irritating. Bang! 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 Ding Fengqiu executed all sorts of killing moves. Like a torrential storm, he forced Mo Yen to retreat continuously. A horrifying sword intent spread throughout the place. This increased the might of each sword strike by at least 20%. However, Mo Yen defended like a tortoise. The 3 shields moved up and down, changing sizes as they blocked Ding Fengqiu's killing moves. Ka xie. Ding Fengqiu sheathed his sword and heaved a sigh of relief. He wiped away the sweat on his forehead and sighed, "Never mind, you can go down. This match is considered a draw." Ding Fengqiu had already attacked for 4 hours. However, his opponent's defense was simply too shocking. If this continued, he would exhaust too much essence. He would have to give up on the remaining 17 matches. Ding Fengqiu could only helplessly choose a draw. This person was here to deal with his defensive sword. He was indeed not easy to deal with. Ha 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 ha. Up in the tall tower, Gao Yangyu laughed heartily. After Ding Fengqiu said this, he had earned another 6 million medial-grade spirit stones. Congratulations, City Lord. You have earned another 6 million medial-grade spirit stones. A few old men stood up and congratulated. Gao Yangyu could not hide the smile on his face. He said in high spirits, "The next person with consecutive victories seems to be Jiang Zimo." How much did he bet? It is less than Ding Fengqiu's. However, it is still 3 million. Gao Yangyu said sullenly, "The non-phase divine technique is indeed difficult to deal with. However, it should not be a problem if I spend some resources on him." Ding Fengqiu's consecutive victories came to an end. However, he won the remaining 17 matches. He had a total of 63 victories. Given this, regardless of the results of the matches tomorrow and the day after, Ding Fengqiu had obtained the qualifications to appear in the first round. The spectators all felt that it was a pity. If Ding Fengqiu had not ended in a draw in his first match, he might have broken the record of 60 consecutive victories. The sound of cursing in the crowd was even louder than when Pei Shaoxian lost. This was because there were simply too many people who bet on Ding Fengqiu. In the end, Ding Fengqiu did not even manage to obtain 50 consecutive victories. He fell on the 47th match. The people who bet on him had lost everything. When Ding Fengqiu passed by Jiang Zimo, he said, "The 60 consecutive victories will depend on you. The endurance of your non-phase divine technique is sufficient for you to continue smiling proudly." Jiang Zimo shook his head and smiled, "It will be difficult. My non-phase divine technique wins by endurance, but it also loses by endurance." After a few matches, Jiang Zimo entered the arena. His first opponent was a 100-year-old old man with extremely dense essence. When Jiang Zimo felt this person's aura, his heart sank slightly. The old man's greatest advantage was that every one of his palm strikes contained 100% of its might. However, he only exhausted 10% of his essence. Thus, if an ordinary person fought with him and went all out, he would exhaust his essence in no time. However, he would still have an abundance of essence. This was the strangeness of the non-phase divine technique. It was one of the 3 inferior grade heaven-ranked cultivation techniques of the Myriad Fiend Palace. However, this old man who had lived for an unknown period of time was very problematic. The other party might be lacking in everything, but he definitely would not lack essence. Bang! 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 After the two greeted each other, they immediately started fighting. They clashed head-on, exchanging blows with each other. Both of them used their full strength. Strong essence surged in the dueling ring. Every time the palm winds clashed, a huge pit would appear in the dueling ring. Intense explosions rang out incessantly, completely suppressing the sound of the towering war drums. The two fought tirelessly. The might of the palm winds that erupted from the two were about equal. The only thing that mattered was who could exhaust their essence first. After 1,000 moves, the shock waves of the two's battle riddled the vast arena with holes. There was not a single place that was unscathed. The old man's complexion slowly paled. His strength seemed to run out. As for Jiang Zimo, his face did not turn red, and he did not pant. There was no change in him at all. The air buzzed from the palm winds, but the might did not weaken at all. Bang! The two exchanged another palm strike. This time, they were not evenly matched. The old man was knocked back several dozen steps, but Jiang Zimo only took 3 steps back. "You can't hold on anymore." Again. Jiang Zimo smiled faintly and flew forward. Then, he sent a palm strike at the old man's chest. The palm wind was still as sharp as before, its might did not weaken at all. With one palm strike, the old man vomited blood and was defeated. The second match continued. In the end, another old man over 100 years old appeared. Jiang Zimo smiled bitterly. After exchanging 1,000 moves with him, the other party's essence was exhausted. He could no longer keep up with Jiang Zimo's might and was defeated in one move. The third match continued. The one who appeared was another old man over 100 years old. His aura was deep and drawn out. With one look, it was clear that he was a cultivator with rich essence. Jiang Zimo exchanged another 1,000 moves with him. His opponent's essence could no longer keep up, and Jiang Zimo defeated him again. The fourth match continued. The one who appeared was another old man over 100 years old. When Jiang Zimo saw the old man's relaxed expression, his lips twitched slightly. He felt extremely depressed in his heart. Although Jiang Zimo had expected that the other party would find many cultivators with rich essence to take turns fighting him, he had not expected Gao Yangyu to be so disgusting. However, Jiang Zimo did not expect Gao Yangyu to be so disgusting. He actually looked for old fellows who were over 100 years old. Every time they fought, it would take more than 1,000 moves. No matter how powerful the phaseless divine art was, he would tire himself to death if this went on. Jiang Zimo waved his hand helplessly and said, "You may go down. I admit defeat for this match." When the old man heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "Many thanks, little friend. I am just a bag of old bones. It will be even harder for me to endure 1,000 moves than for you youths. After 49 consecutive victories, Jiang Zimo did not manage to reach 50 consecutive victories. Another mournful wail resounded in the crowd. As long as Jiang Zimo passed 50 consecutive victories, he would be able to obtain some money. It was just that the payout was small. Who knew that Jiang Zimo would not be able to make it past the final step despite being so close? After that, Mu Xinya appeared. The crowd rekindled their last hope. Mu Xinya was as famous as Jiang Zimo. Perhaps she would be able to obtain 50 or even 60 consecutive victories. Chapter 447. However, Mu Xinya did not want to use the energy that the Heavenly Wolf King left behind. That would leave her in a weakened state for a long time. In the end, Mu Xinya lost to Gao Yangyu's sneak attack, stopping at 48 consecutive victories. AI. When Mu Xinya was defeated, several thousand people in the large spectator stand sighed. No one managed to break through even after 50 consecutive victories, what more 60? This time, we have lost everything. Gao Yangyu's mood became exceptionally good after the final threat was eliminated. He smiled and said, "Tabulate the total amount of medial-grade spirit stones that we obtained in this wrestling ring." After a while, an old man took out a stack of information and said, "There is a total of 20 million medial-grade spirit stones bet on these 4 people. They all stopped at 50 consecutive victories. That is to say, the people who bet on them will not get a single cent. If the person who bet on obtained 50 consecutive victories, then the person who bet on them would obtain 50% of the payout. After that, for every 10 consecutive victories, the payout would double. The payout would be double for 60 consecutive victories, double for 70 consecutive victories, quadruple for 80 consecutive victories, and 16 times for 100 consecutive victories." The odds looked extremely tempting, but unfortunately, if they stopped at 50 consecutive wins, they wouldn't be able to get a single cent. They would lose everything they had. Furthermore, with Gao Yangyu's clever promotion, the wrestling ring this time was the ancient Desolate Tower's first round of selections. This caused the number of bets to soar. After this wrestling ring ended, who knew how many cultivators would be penniless and have to start all over again? Gao Yangyu paused for a while and thought of something. He said, "What is the amount of bets on that Shao Chen?" The few of them lowered their heads and flipped through the information on the table. Then, they said, "Hey, why did it suddenly reach 2 million? Gao Yangyu's expression changed slightly. He said, "Didn't we freeze the bets on this brat? How could there be 2 million bets?" The few of them checked carefully and said, "I found it. Yesterday and the day before, there were only 1 million bets. That should be normal. After all, he is a contestant with consecutive victories. However, today, there is an increase of 1 million. Something is not right." Gao Yangyu sneered, "It looks like someone wants to gamble. Unfortunately, they chose the wrong person. It shouldn't be a problem to use Master Bai to deal with that kid, right? He's the only one with a winning streak now." Gao Yangyu said indifferently, "Old Bai is 150 years old. When he uses his full strength, even I find it hard to deal with him. Even if Old Bai fails, Tuoba Luyun and Mo Yen still have one more chance. Do you think this brat has a chance?" In the spectator stands, when everyone's gazes were focused on Mu Xinya, another 2 acupoints on Shao Chen's left arm exploded. 2 streams of blue dragon energy slowly wandered on his arms and slowly seeped into his skin. Shao Chen opened his eyes slightly and revealed a faint expression of joy on his face. He said, "I am just short of great perfection of the firmament body tempering art's 4th layer. After today's battle, it looks like I will definitely reach greater mastery. However, I wonder if Gao Yangyu will give me this opportunity. It would be his turn soon." Shao Chen thought for a while and stopped cultivating. He got up and walked to the front of the spectator stands to watch the matches. The one fighting was Mu Xinya. She used 2 Mandarin duck sabers. The strength of the challengers in the wrestling ring increased by the day. Today, the strength of the challengers was comparable to the outstanding talents of the various regions. After all, they were all middle-aged cultivators. Although the outstanding talents of the various regions were outstanding, they had not fully matured yet. Furthermore, they had a good grasp of the strength of the challengers. Every match was exceptionally difficult. If they wanted to obtain victory, they had to go all out. Even someone as strong as Mu Xinya had a hard time winning. There were even a few draws. After the 18 matches ended, Mu Xinya walked off the wrestling ring, feeling somewhat fatigued. She received the 4,000-odd medial-grade spirit stones from the gray-robed old man. Her winning streak had come to an end. She could not accumulate her previous winning streaks. Today, she had only won 15 matches. That was all she could obtain. Mu Xinya nodded gently at Xiao Chen and returned to Jiang Zimo's side. Pei Xiaoxian, who had already recovered from some of his injuries, smiled bitterly and said, "It was not easy to obtain 60 consecutive victories. Now, even the last hope is gone." Jiang Zimo smiled faintly and said, "There is still Xiao Chen's winning streak. Perhaps he still has hope." Pei Xiaoxian mocked, "What ability does he have? He could not even win against Ding Fengqiu." The others all expressed that they did not think well of Xiao Chen. Yun Ping's words were as mocking as ever. "He is beaten to death every day. How could he obtain consecutive victories today? What a joke. Jiang Zimo, your eyesight is too poor." Xiao Chen turned his head and swept his gaze across the people who spoke harshly. Finally, his gaze landed on Yun Ping. Although Xiao Chen had been immersed in cultivation, he had used his spiritual sense to observe his surroundings. This was to ensure that when someone interrupted his cultivation, he would be able to retaliate immediately. These people's numbers were all in front of Xiao Chen's. For the past few days, they had been mocking him non-stop like flies. No matter how good a person's temper was, they would still feel impatient. Yun Ping had suffered 17 consecutive defeats today. Furthermore, he had sustained significant sword injuries. He might not be able to recover by tomorrow. Yun Ping was in an extremely bad mood. When he felt Xiao Chen's gaze, he said angrily, "What are you looking at? What are you trying to do? Could it be that I can't even say a few words to you? Who do you think you are? How annoying." Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He pushed off the ground and his figure flashed, arriving before Yun Ping. "Pa!" Before Yun Ping could react, Xiao Chen slapped him across the face. The sound of the slap was melodious, stunning everyone. "How dare you hit me? You!" This slap caused Yun Ping's face to swell up. Blood leaked out from the corner of his lips. Most importantly, it was done in front of everyone. This slap caused Yun Ping to lose all face. There was a saying that one should not hit the face when hitting someone. However, Xiao Chen did not seem to care that much. "Ka xie." Yun Ping grasped his sword hilt with his right hand and revealed a murderous intent. He was about to draw his sword and chop at Xiao Chen. "Pa!" Xiao Chen did not give Yun Ping any chance to draw his sword. He slapped Yun Ping's left cheek and sent him flying. The spectator stands fell silent. Several people gaped in shock as they looked at Xiao Chen in disbelief. It was like this was the first time they met this fellow. At this moment, Xiao Chen was extremely cold. His killing chi was withdrawn. Although it was not released, everyone felt a chill. Compared to the usual calm and indifferent Xiao Chen, he was like a completely different person. "Ah!" A miserable shriek rang out as Xiao Chen kicked Yun Ping's chest. That spot happened to be the wound that Yun Ping suffered today. Yun Ping's internal organs had just recovered a little when Xiao Chen kicked him. The intense pain was a small matter. If Yun Ping's injuries worsened, he would not be able to participate in the next 2 days of the competition. That was to say, Yun Ping was completely disqualified from the first round of selections. This guy's kick must have been intentional. Several people in the field thought in their hearts. His attack was really not ordinary ruthless. You can say whatever you want, but after you make a move, he will beat you up until you are disqualified from the selections. The people who normally mocked Xiao Chen quickly hid in a corner, avoiding Xiao Chen's gaze. Xiao Rou looked at Yun Ping, who was lying on the ground in pain and despair. She snorted coldly and said, "Serves him right. Let's see if this fellow still dares to speak so viciously." When Ding Fengqiu saw the situation, he was not surprised. He had never thought that Xiao Chen was someone who acted normally, someone who would have any reservations. Otherwise, Xiao Chen would not have attacked Jin Wuji so mercilessly that day after learning his identity. Just because Xiao Chen had withdrawn his sharpness did not mean that he did not have it. Just because he did not have a temper did not mean that he had a good temper. This was Xiao Chen. As a bladesman, Xiao Chen's sharpness could not be reduced. His pride could not be broken. He wanted to condense his qi into saber intent. How could he allow others to humiliate him? Ding Fengqiu withdrew his gaze and stopped thinking. He only raised Xiao Chen's position in his heart. Like Jiang Zimo, Xiao Chen was one of Ding Fengqiu's biggest competitors for the 20 spots. When Pei Xiaoxian saw this scene, he felt a chill run down his spine. He felt an inexplicable chill. When Pei Xiaoxian thought about how he had just recovered from his injuries, he summoned out a spirit beast. He felt that it was not safe, so he summoned out another spirit beast. Then, he walked to a corner and started to treat his injuries. After doing all this, Xiao Chen ignored Yun Ping, who was lying on the ground, groaning. Then, he turned his gaze back to the wrestling ring. This person was already crippled and could not enter the ancient desolate tower. He would never be a threat to Xiao Chen. As long as Xiao Chen continued to grow stronger, the sect behind Yun Ping would not offend Xiao Chen for the sake of a second-rank genius. Even if Yun Ping made a move against Xiao Chen, he still had 2 medallions to use. Xiao Chen did not have to worry about making a move against Yun Ping. After Xiao Chen caused such a commotion, the atmosphere turned strange. The originally lively discussions stopped. It was like everyone was afraid of Xiao Chen. After a while, the voice of the gray-robed old man rang out, "Number 125, prepare to go out quickly." Xiao Chen leaped up gently and landed in the wrestling ring. After he left, many of the people in the wrestling ring heaved a sigh of relief for some reason. It was like a heavy stone had been lifted from their hearts. "I am Xiao Chen of the great Qin nation. Everyone, please give me some pointers." The sky slowly turned dark. The setting sun cast a fiery red glow over the wrestling ring, coating Xiao Chen's body with a faint red glow. Xiao Chen maintained a calm expression, neither happy nor angry. Just like that, Xiao Chen appeared before the crowd once again. "Xiao Chen. This fellow is coming up again. Can he continue to win?" Every time Xiao Chen won, he paid a heavy price. He was like a small leaf in a storm. In the storm, Xiao Chen was beaten into a mess. He rose and fell, but he persisted until the end every time, obtaining a victory that belonged to him. Would he continue to win? No one would say that he could. However, if they gave the opposite answer, no one would say that Xiao Chen would definitely lose. At this moment, Xiao Chen and the crowd in the spectator stands were all unfathomable. They were filled with boundless mysteries. It was hard to say whether Xiao Chen would win or not. Chapter 448. Of the 7 people with consecutive victories, only this person is left. Unfortunately, no matter what, it has nothing to do with me. I only bet 500 medial grade spirit stones on him. I bet less than you, only 200. I bet all of my bets on Ding Fengqiu. Me too, I bet most of my bets on Jiang Zimo. I only bet 700 medial grade spirit stones on him. Let's wait and see. If he loses today, all his consecutive victories will come to an end. It would be like the wrestling ring ended early. When Xiao Chen entered the arena, with his familiar voice and expression, the many cultivators in the spectator stands perked up again. Many of them already had the mentality of watching the last match. After today, there would be no more consecutive victories. The greatest charm of the wrestling ring would be gone. It did not matter whether they watched or not. Hoo-chee! Hoo-chee! A strong wind blew in the arena. The wind howled and kicked up a cloud of dust, filling the air. This was a strong wind created by pure aura. Even though this person was here, his aura was already so strong. This person was not simple. Xiaoqin squinted his eyes and looked at the old man slowly descending from the sky. The person landed firmly on the ground. His hair and eyebrows were white, and wrinkles appeared on his face. He looked old, and his voice was somewhat hoarse. He said indifferently, "Bai Mufeng, here to seek advice." It is actually Bai Mufeng. This old fellow has not come out for decades. I thought he was dead. I seem to remember this fellow. 50 or 60 years ago, he would often end the winning streaks of cultivators. After that, there was no news of him. Unexpectedly, he reappeared today. 50 years ago, he was already a superior grade martial king. How horrifying is his cultivation now? He should be strong enough to kill Xiaoqin. This time, it's all over. His last winning streak is about to end. When the spectators in the spectator stand saw the white-haired old man announce his name, they all shook their heads in regret. Originally, they thought that Xiaoqin would be able to obtain a few more consecutive victories. Now, they no longer held any hope. The reason for this was that the difference in cultivation was too great. Boom! Bai Mufeng did not pay attention to the surrounding voices. After he finished speaking, a 1-meter-long sword appeared in his hand and he waved it. A thick sword qi that was over 20 meters long swept out with boundless momentum. As the sword qi surged, it seemed as if even the air was being split in half. Xiaoqin tapped the ground with his toes and quickly dodged to the side, temporarily avoiding the attack. Boom! As soon as his foot left the ground, the thick sword qi crashed into the ground. With a loud bang, the sword qi created a long ravine that was half a meter deep. What a guy! The treasured sword hasn't aged. Instead, it's surging even more. Seeing this scene, the audience on the stage cried out in surprise. Boom boom boom. A strong wind blew and Bai Mufeng's figure flickered. He brandished his sword 4 times in a row and the 4 strands of sword qi intertwined with each other, spinning continuously. Every sword qi was more than 20 meters long. Like a windmill, they descended from the sky and pressed down on Xiaoqin. Whirlwind sword chop, Bai Mufeng's famous consummate skill. The power of the sword descends from the sky. You can't dodge this move, you can only face it head-on. Unexpectedly, this old fellow is still so strong. I remember that he could only brandish his sword twice in the past. Now, he can brandish his sword 4 times. Seeing this whirlwind sword chop, a sword expert immediately started explaining. Xiaoqin looked up and saw that the 4 strands of sword qi were spinning rapidly. He could no longer see their outlines, he could only see blurry shadows. The power of the sword condensed in the sky, carrying a supreme might as it slowly pressed down. Xiaoqin felt like a mountain was pressing down on him, he had no way to dodge. Even a mountain is pressing down, where can you hide? The whirlwind sword chop has reached such a level. What an exquisite sword move. Xiaoqin frowned slightly. He thought to himself, unexpectedly, I can't dodge it. Since I can't dodge, I will break it for you. Xiaoqin shouted and the acupoints on his palm burst open. Boom! A strand of dragon qi gathered in his right arm. In that instant, Xiaoqin felt like he was filled with boundless strength, he could even shatter a mountain. The dragon qi gathered in his 5 fingers and he clenched his left hand into a fist. Then, Xiaoqin soared into the sky at the center of the whirlwind sword chop. You overestimate yourself. So what if you can break it? Bai Mufeng snorted coldly. The essence in his body surged and his clothes fluttered continuously. Who? Who? The air started to surge along with the fluttering of his clothes. It formed a strong wind that howled back and forth in the dueling ring, rising and falling like waves. Whirlwind sword chop, 5 swords. Whirlwind sword chop, 6 swords. Whirlwind sword chop, 7 swords. Bai Mufeng's aura rose continuously. A strong wind blew and the sky changed color as he brandished his sword continuously. Boom! 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 The whirlwind sword chop grew larger and larger as it flew at Xiao Chen. As the sword chi spun, it stirred up a horrifying storm. The ground split open and huge chunks of soil flew into the sky, unable to withstand the horrifying force. Damn it! What is this Bai Mufeng trying to do? He is clearly trying to kill Xiao Chen. Someone in the crowd exclaimed. As the strong wind blew, several martial saint cultivators in the spectator stands could not stand stably and started to sway. However, Bai Mufeng did not stop. In the end, he sent out a whirlwind sword chop consisting of 10 strands of sword chi. Only then did he slow down. Who? Bai Mufeng panted continuously. After he sent out these 10 whirlwind sword chop, he seemed to have aged 10 years. His entire person also became extremely weak, he could no longer exert any strength. Layers upon layers of whirlwind sword slashes, each larger and stronger than the previous one, looked like a continuous mountain range that overlapped with each other. The expressions of the various outstanding talents in the spectator stands changed. This was especially so for those cultivators who were not on good terms with Xiao Chen. They all had joyful expressions on their faces. They could tell that the might of these 7 whirlwind sword chop was boundless. An ordinary martial king would not be able to withstand it. It was very likely that Xiao Chen would die under these layers of whirlwind sword chop. How could they be happy? Jiang Zimo, Xia Shiyan, and the others all had worried expressions on their faces. They had not expected such an intense scene to occur in the wrestling ring. Xiao Chen's expression was calm. He ignored the strong wind and the rocks flying around him. He punched the center of the pinwheel sword chop, which was at the very front, where the sword chi intersected. Break! The whirlwind sword chop shattered and a huge force surged into Xiao Chen's body, causing his internal organs to churn. The shattered sword chi were like knives raining down on Xiao Chen's body, leaving behind bloody wounds. Boom! The second acupoint on Xiao Chen's left arm, below his palm, exploded. The 2 strands of dragon chi merged and shattered it with one punch. Then, he followed up with the second whirlwind sword chop. The third acupoint exploded. Once again, Xiao Chen broke through an even more powerful pinwheel sword chop, slashing his way through. When the final 5 strands of dragon chi gathered, Xiao Chen had already broken through the whirlwind sword chop formed by the 9 strands of sword chi. Only the last strand of sword chi remained. It was also the strongest, the whirlwind sword chop with 10 strands of sword chi. Xiao Chen's clothes were already in tatters from the shattered sword chi. Wounds of various sizes covered his body. There was not a single part of him that was unscathed. If not for his strong physical body, just the shattered sword chi would have torn Xiao Chen to shreds countless times over. When Xiao Chen saw the final whirlwind sword chop, he shouted. The blue dragon tattoo on his right arm suddenly came to life. His right fist, which he had not used, finally exploded out. Bang! A dragon might spread out, completely suppressing that mountain-like aura. There was a loud sound, and the entire wrestling ring could not help but tremble a few times. Whoosh! The whirlwind sword chop formed by the 10 strands of sword chi shattered into countless strands of sword chi. They fell to the ground like rain. Amid the rain of sword chi, Xiao Chen descended from the sky and punched at Bai Mufeng. When Bai Mufeng saw Xiao Chen break the 10 whirlwind sword chop, his eyes filled with shock. He had not expected such an ending. Bai Mufeng wanted to resist, but he discovered that he had already exhausted all his essence on the whirlwind sword chop. He did not have any strength left. Bang! With a punch, Bai Mufeng's aged body floated into the sky like a kite with a broken string. Pu-ci. Pu-ci. The rapidly descending sword qi struck Bai Mufeng's body like rain. Soon, thousands of holes appeared on his body, leaving behind countless bloody holes. When Bai Mufeng landed, he was completely dead. A strong wind blew. The spectators could not accept this fact. Bai Mufeng was actually killed by the shattered sword qi that he sent out. Damn! He is still alive. Yun Ping endured the intense pain as he looked at Xiao Chen, who was still standing. His heart filled with hatred. Xia Xiyan and the others heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were astonished at Xiao Chen's strength. Up in the tall tower, Gao Yangyu's expression remained calm. He looked at the bleeding and injured Xiao Chen, who was panting. He said, "Tell Tuoba Luyun to prepare to fight. Don't give this fellow any time to vent. I do not want him to lose, I just want him to die." The strength that Xiao Chen displayed made Gao Yangyu not hold much hope of defeating Xiao Chen in one go. Bai Mufeng originally did not have much lifespan left. He was already very satisfied that he could reduce Xiao Chen to such a miserable state. When the other old men in the room saw Gao Yangyu's cold expression, they all felt a slight chill. Unexpectedly, Gao Yangyu did not lament the death of one of his subordinates. Such cold-bloodedness made everyone tremble in fear. Dee-da! Dee-da! Blood dripped from Xiao Chen's wounds onto the ground. Pain spread throughout his entire body. It was hard to imagine that a martial king could send out 10 layers of whirlwind sword chops. Even with Xiao Chen's essence, he would not be able to sustain the exhaustion of this move. Only an old monster like Bai Mufeng, who had lived for more than 150 years, could do this. Unfortunately, Bai Mufeng had not expected Xiao Chen to have the blue dragon's qi. That was the power of a half-step martial monarch's full power strike. This was also a trump card that Xiao Chen would not use unless he had no other choice. Once he used it, he would be able to break any killing move under half-step martial monarch. Even so, Xiao Chen found the injuries somewhat unbearable. Although the external injuries looked horrifying, they were small matters. It was just some pain. After enduring it for a while, it would pass. With Xiao Chen's mental state, it would not affect his combat. Chapter 449. The more serious ones were internal injuries. Every time he destroyed that round of sword slashes, the intense shockwave would shake his internal organs. After accumulating so many times, his 5 viscera and 6 bowels had suffered considerable damage. If he continued to fight, his injuries would worsen. Chi. Right at this moment, clumps of red light invisible to the naked eye floated out from Bai Muran's corpse. The amount of red light was actually about the same as the high-ranked blood demons that Xiao Chen had killed in the past. Moreover, it was much less baleful and did not have as many negative emotions as the demon dwellers. In an instant, it made Xiao Chen's entire body feel a lot more comfortable. Buzz buzz buzz. The scarlet throne in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness started to surge. Xiao Chen felt the energy he expended recovering continuously. Inside the throne, the pool of blood was also growing in circles. Xiao Chen cut off the pleasure and spat out a mouthful of black blood. He suddenly felt much more relaxed. Xiao! A heavy sound rang out. It was the second challenger. Xiao Chen's eyes had already recovered their clarity. When he looked up, he saw that it was Tuoba Luyun, who had defeated Pei Shaoxian. Tuoba Luyun removed his mace, and the black wolf tattoo on his body slowly spread out. He said sullenly, "Sorry, I do not like to take advantage of others. However, this is a wrestling ring. To you, there is no such thing as fairness." Xiao Chen said indifferently, "There is no need to say anything more. Ever since I entered the wrestling ring, I have never thought of true fairness." Hu Qi. Xiao Chen activated the blood flame shoes and moved as fast as lightning. Tiger and dragon roars came from his fists as he took the initiative to attack. The other party's black wolf tattoo was a little strange. Xiao Chen did not want to give the other party too much time. He wanted to stop the black wolf tattoo from spreading. Bang! Tuoba Luyun calmly swung his spiked mace to receive Xiao Chen's fist. The fist and the spiked mace clashed violently. With a loud bang, a ripple immediately spread in the air. Xiao Chen used the rebound force from the mace and flipped in the air. The fist wind howled as it punched at Tuoba Luyun's head. Tuoba Luyun reacted very quickly. He took a step back and swung his mace at Xiao Chen again. Bang, bang, bang. Using the rebound force from the mace, Xiao Chen moved up and down. His fist winds were like lightning as he continuously attacked Tuoba Luyun with the Great Dragon Tiger Fist. Tuoba Luyun's black wolf tattoo was forced to stop spreading. He could only continue to face his enemies. He increased his strength a few times. Tuoba Luyun wanted to swing his staff at Xiao Chen so that his black wolf tattoo would appear. However, Tuoba Luyun was blocked by Xiao Chen. Why is this fellow so strong? Tuoba Luyun could not take down Xiao Chen after attacking for a long time. Slowly, he started to feel frustrated. Tuoba Luyun was a barbarian warrior, and that black wolf was the totem of his tribe. If he could not summon it, his strength would be halved. Tuoba Luyun knew that Xiao Chen was very strong. However, Tuoba Luyun did not care much about it. After all, he was a barbarian warrior famous for his strength. However, when he clashed with Xiao Chen, he realized that his strength could not reach Xiao Chen at all. If not for the special material of his mace, he might have been suppressed by Xiao Chen. Boom! 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 The Great Dragon Tiger Fist worked with the Blue Dragon Cloud soaring art. Xiao Chen was like a soaring blue dragon. As Xiao Chen moved up and down, he forced Tuoba Luyun to retreat continuously, forcing him to retreat continuously. This cannot continue. This fellow does not seem to be injured at all. I have to knock him back in one strike and summon out my totem. Wolf Fang break. Tuoba Luyun shouted and brandished his mace. A black wolf appeared, looking very solid. It carried a vicious aura as it swung at Xiao Chen. The black wolf's strange eyes looked at Xiao Chen. It looked like a beast god, making one's heart tremble. This strange energy actually has a mental attack as well. Xiao Chen smiled faintly to himself. Unfortunately, it is useless against me. It is time to end this. Boom! Not intending to hide his strength, Xiao Chen merged his vital qi and essence. His strength immediately reached 400,000 kilograms of force. The surging energy in his fist wind could not help but explode. Bang! 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 The black wolf was instantly shattered by the explosive energy. It only managed to resist for a moment. Tuoba Luyun laughed loudly and said, "I did not expect you to be hiding your strength. Unfortunately, I am too late." In the short time that the black wolf blocked, the tattoo on Tuoba Luyun's body had already spread out. The image of a black wolf slowly appeared behind Tuoba Luyun. Too late. I don't think so. Xiao Chen shattered the black wolf. The instant Tuoba Luyun summoned his totem, Xiao Chen placed his right hand on Tuoba Luyun's chest. Pu Ci. The palm sword shot out and a bowl-sized hole immediately appeared in Tuoba Luyun's chest. Blood leaked out of the corner of Tuoba Luyun's mouth, and his eyes filled with shock. The image of the black wolf that was about to form behind Tuoba Luyun slowly scattered. He had not expected that just as the situation was about to turn around, Xiao Chen would immediately end the battle. Bang! Xiao Chen sent out another palm strike. His vital qi and essence merged, and Tuoba Luyun was knocked back by Xiao Chen. Tuoba Luyun could no longer get up. The palm sword circled around and returned to Xiao Chen's palm once again. 48 wins in a row. Can he keep winning? When the many cultivators in the spectator stands saw Tuoba Luyun lying on the ground, their emotions surged. This was Tuoba Luyun, who had defeated even Pei Shaoxian. Unexpectedly, Tuoba Luyun lost to Xiao Chen. Furthermore, he did not even have the chance to use his totem. Pa! Gao Yangyu smacked the windowsill violently. His expression turned sullen again. After that, he calmed himself and said, "Don't be afraid. I still have Mo Yen. He is someone that even Ding Fengqiu could not defeat." Right now, the only people Gao Yangyu could use were Mo Yen and Shi Feng. The experts he hired had all been used up on Jiang Zimo and the others. If Gao Yangyu had known that Xiao Chen would be so difficult to deal with, he might have reconsidered his arrangements. "When will Shi Feng return?" Gao Yangyu asked, feeling somewhat frustrated. As the main character of the wrestling ring, Shi Feng could come and go as she pleased. Even Gao Yangyu could not control her. Shi Feng could come and go as she pleased. She did not care about the wrestling ring at all. "City Lord, Shi Feng left 2 days ago. The earliest she will return is tomorrow." Gao Yangyu said angrily, "Bastard. To think I gave her such a high reward. She did not even give me face at such a crucial moment. If I let Xiao Chen continue winning, I will lose at least 1 million medial-grade spirit stones." Back in the wrestling ring, Xiao Chen watched as Mo Yen summoned out the 3 shields and stopped moving. He smiled faintly and said, "Are you planning to use the tortoise tactic?" As the shield danced in the air, Mo Yen said indifferently, "Is it a good tactic to end your winning streak?" Xiao Chen withdrew his smile and stomped on the ground ferociously. Bang! A crack immediately appeared in the ground. A wave of qi blades flew rapidly towards Mo Yen as the crack extended. Mo Yen formed hand seals with both hands, and the 3 palm-sized shields quickly enlarged. Then, he stomped on the ground as well. A formless energy spread out, and the crack stopped 3 meters in front of the shields. Dang! 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 Seeing that this move did not work, Xiao Chen's figure flashed and he quickly punched at Mo Yen. When the fist wind struck the shield, it gave off a loud sound. Xiao Chen's fist turned numb. However, Mo Yen, who was inside the shield, only turned slightly red. He was not affected at all. This shield should be a medial-grade secret treasure. Furthermore, the other party should know some defensive techniques. Otherwise, he would not be so difficult to deal with. Xiao Chen used his pure vital qi to attack several hundred times. However, he could not take down Mo Yen for a long time, so he could only give up and continue using brute force. Mo Yen sneered from behind the shield. "Are you feeling pain in your hand? Come on, I won't fall before your own arm is crippled." Xiao Chen could not help but feel angry. This fellow is too noisy. He is just like a tortoise. No, he is even harder to deal with than a tortoise. When Ding Fengqiu saw this scene, he shook his head slightly. He had personally experienced the might of this shield. That defensive power could only be described as monstrous. Ding Fengqiu even suspected that even a half-step martial monarch would not be able to do anything to this fellow. 49 consecutive victories. As long as he wins one more, he will reach 50 consecutive victories. Is he going to end like this? The cultivators in the spectator stands who had placed some spirit stones on Xiao Chen thought in dissatisfaction as they looked at the clueless Xiao Chen. 3 palm-sized shields floated quietly beside Mo Yen. Mo Yen had a relaxed expression as he looked at Xiao Chen with some mockery. Why is he out of energy? Or is his hand really crippled? Xiao Chen closed his eyes and ignored the other party's words. He started to think of a countermeasure. Ding Fengqiu has the art of controlling swords and an even stronger state of massacre. Even so, he could not break this person's shield. This meant that those under half-step martial monarch would not be able to break this person's shield with pure offensive power. I have to think of another way. It would also be hard to break through with speed. That shield had the ability to automatically capture the enemy's movements. Unless one's speed was Mach 4, it would be useless. If one could not break through with speed or strength, this shield would be a headache for those under half-step martial monarch. It felt like there was no way to break through it. No wonder even someone as strong as Ding Fengqiu could only end up in a draw. I got it. After a while, Xiaochen opened his eyes and his lips curled up in an arc. He finally thought of a countermeasure. If I cannot break it with speed or strength, can I block a physical attack? Can I block a mental attack? Right now, Xiaochen's mental energy was very strong. It was as strong as a martial monarch's. Although Xiaochen's attack methods were lacking and he needed a long time to prepare, it was not suitable to use in a proper battle. However, it was very suitable for someone like Mo Yan, who took the initiative to ask for peace. As long as the other party revealed an opening, Xiaochen would be able to break through immediately. Without the protection of the shield, this guy was just a piece of trash. Suddenly, the mental energy in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness started to surge. After a while, it formed a deity. Under Xiaochen's control, it left the sea of consciousness and flew towards Mo Yan. Xiaochen left the sea of consciousness and headed for Mo Yan, who was behind the shield. Qi. When the formless deity pierced through the shield, Xiaochen was surprised to discover that the deity's glow weakened significantly. This shield actually had the effect of weakening mental energy. Chapter 450. Fortunately, it was only weakening and not blocking. Xiaochen had achieved his goal. Mo Yan, who was inside the shield, looked at the helpless Xiaochen. He felt very pleased with himself and was about to say a few mocking words when he suddenly discovered that the scene before him had changed. However, he suddenly realized that the scene in front of him had suddenly changed. On the barren land, a deity with supreme majesty stood in midair. What's going on? Wasn't I in Wrestling City? How did I end up here? Mo Yan thought to himself as he looked around blankly. Oh no! This is an illusion. Mo Yan reacted quickly. He quickly bit the tip of his tongue and felt a wave of pain. Then, the illusion before him slowly disappeared. However, when Mo Yan recovered his senses, he discovered that Xiaochen had already entered the shield at some point in time. Now, Xiaochen was standing less than half a meter in front of him. How did you get in? Mo Yan exclaimed in horror. However, after Mo Yan finished speaking, he suddenly understood what was going on. Mo Yan must have lost control of the shield when he was distracted, allowing Xiaochen to take advantage of it. Bang! Bang! Xiaochen used his fist to answer Mo Yan's question. He sent out an unending stream of fist winds, causing Mo Yan to howl in pain. Who asked you to be so arrogant? Do you think that I can't do anything to you just because I have a turtle shield? Now, I am beating you. Mo Yan did not even have a chance to dodge in the narrow space. After he was beaten half to death, Xiaochen finally stopped. When the spectators saw this, they felt it was strange. They did not know how Xiaochen managed to find a loophole in the seemingly flawless shield a moment ago. However, after a while, the spectators realized that Xiaochen had won. He had already obtained 49 consecutive victories. The spectators immediately erupted in thunderous cheers. After defeating 3 of the opponents that Gao Yangyu arranged, Xiaochen's next opponents were more normal. They were no longer ridiculously strong. Xiaochen continued to use his vital qi to fight. He felt that the firmament body tempering art was about to reach great perfection. As long as he did not encounter a situation that he could not handle, he would not merge his essence and vital qi. Xiaochen would not merge his essence and vital qi. As he fought battle after battle, Xiaochen's consecutive victories started to accumulate crazily. 50, 51, 52, 53. Dong! War drums resounded endlessly. Dragons roared and tigers roared in the wrestling ring. Xiaochen's aura flourished. Although it was still difficult for him to win, he managed to persevere and win. When Xiaochen achieved his 60th consecutive victory, the entire wrestling ring erupted with excitement. Several of the cultivators who had voted for Xiaochen stood up excitedly. 60 consecutive victories. This fellow really obtained 60 consecutive victories. He finally recouped some of his capital. Who could have thought that he would break the record of 60 consecutive victories? Yunping's Xiao Chen's expression became extremely complicated. They clenched their fists and bit their lips. Was it envy, jealousy, or shame? There was no way to describe what they were feeling now. He felt like he was, envy, or Xiao. Was Xiao, Chen was, he, and was, Chen, and was, Chen, Xiao Chen, and, he, was. His entire body was filled with boundless energy. Every part of his body was a sharp weapon that could injure others. During the battle, Xiao Chen's understanding of vital qi reached a whole new level. He felt that he was already very close to great perfection of the firmament body tempering art's fourth layer. In fact, as long as Gao Yangyu interfered with the crowd and sent out cultivators to deal with them, Gao Yangyu would not be able to defeat them. If Jiang Zimo and the others fought normally, it would not be a problem for them to obtain consecutive victories. These geniuses cultivated the best cultivation techniques and martial techniques in the same cultivation realm. Furthermore, they had strong comprehension ability and talent. Xiao Chen had reached the peak in every aspect. He would find few opponents under half-step martial monarch. From the fact that Ding Fengqiu and the others could continue winning after their consecutive victories, it was clear that they were not geniuses on the same level as Yunping and the others. As long as they could break through Gao Yangyu's sniping, they would be able to continue their winning streak. Unfortunately, due to various reasons, Jiang Zimo and the others' winning streaks ended. Ding Fengqiu looked at Xiao Chen, whose robes were stained with blood and his body riddled with wounds. He felt somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. This fellow is always so unremarkable. He is neither hot nor cold. However, when he explodes out in the end, he startles everyone. Xiao Chen won every match with great difficulty. There were no highlights at all. It gave the impression that he would not be able to last until the next day. When Ding Fengqiu, Jiang Zimo, Pei Shaoxian, and Mu Xinya's winning streaks all ended because of Gao Yangyu's sniping, only Xiao Chen persisted. Only he had persisted all the way. Just like in the past, he had won miserably and painstakingly, but he had truly won 60 matches in a row. He didn't use any flashy moves, nor did he use any threatening postures. He was just like that, ordinary and indifferent as he continued to win his way through the battles. Xiao Rou's final eruption exceeded everyone's expectations. Xiao Rou smiled happily and said, "Senior sister, Xiao Chen has obtained 60 consecutive victories. Let's see if those people still dare to say anything." Xia Xian looked at Xiao Chen and sighed softly, unexpectedly. After everyone lost, he is the only one with the last laugh. Boom! Boom! When Xiao Chen fought his final opponent of the day, he opened another 3 acupoints on his left arm. 3 streams of azure-colored dragon qi filled his arms, and all the bones and joints in his body started to crackle loudly. All the muscles in his body pulsed, and his blood surged. The most primitive vital qi that came from his bones continuously filled Xiao Chen's entire body. Xiao Chen's face lit up in joy. He thought to himself, unexpectedly, I broke through in the middle of a fight. I have reached great perfection of the firmament body tempering art's 4th layer. Xiao Chen clenched his fists and felt all the energy in his body gather together. Not only did Xiao Chen open 3 acupoints, but his strength also increased from 255,000 kilograms of force to 600,000 kilograms of force. When his opponent saw that Xiao Chen was in a daze, he rejoiced in his heart. He sent out an unparalleled saber light at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Break for me." Xiao Chen clenched his right fist and punched at the sky. There were 2 bang sounds. That dense saber light shattered, and the fist wind exploded. Xiao Chen unleashed a total of 600,000 kilograms of force, forming a whirlwind in the air. He pulled his opponent into the air and spun him around. Defeat. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and punched with both fists. A tiger and a dragon appeared. The roars of the tiger and the dragon resounded throughout the entire arena. The energy of the tiger and dragon struck the bladesman, who was pulled into the air by Xiao Chen's vital qi, and sent him flying back more than a kilometer. After obtaining the final victory, Xiaoqun obtained his 64th consecutive victory. He was now the only gladiator with a winning streak. When Xiaoqun felt the cheers of the entire arena and the gasps of the crowd, he remained calm. He did not have many fluctuations, just like before. When the gray-robed old man saw Xiaoqun return victorious, he felt a pang in his heart. He took out boxes of spirit stones while trembling slightly. After 64 consecutive victories, Xiaoqun would be able to obtain close to 200,000 medial-grade spirit stones. At this moment, the madness of his consecutive victories finally revealed itself. Even a regular half-step martial monarch would not have such a large sum of medial-grade spirit stones. When the gray-robed old man saw Xiaoqun store the spirit stones into the medial-grade universe ring, he did not congratulate Xiaoqun like he usually did. The gray-robed old man felt a myriad of emotions in his heart. He had not expected this youth to go so far. Close to 200,000 medial-grade spirit stones was just a small sum. The gray-robed old man was very clear on Xiaoqun's 60 consecutive victories. Gao Yangyu, the banker of the betting area, had lost at least 2 million medial-grade spirit stones. Gao Yangyu probably felt like chopping Xiaoqun into pieces. Congratulations! Jiang Zimo and the others said with a smile as they walked over to Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun smiled gently and politely cupped his hands in thanks to everyone. As for those envious gazes, he chose to ignore them. If Xiaoqun had not mercilessly crippled Yunping, there might still be some discordant voices in the crowd. Unfortunately, these people already knew of Xiaoqun. Under his indifferent appearance, there was a sharp aura. It was not that Xiaoqun did not have a temper or strength. It was just that he could not be bothered with them normally. Furthermore, with Yunping's fate before them, who would dare to seek trouble for themselves? They only glanced at Xiaoqun with envy before quickly withdrawing their gazes. Inside the tall tower, Gao Yangyu was not as berserk as everyone expected. Instead, his expression was so calm that it was scary. The atmosphere in the room was very stifling. When the subordinates at the two sides saw the expressionless Gao Yangyu sitting in the middle, they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Everyone knew that in the wrestling ring that just ended, Gao Yangyu had lost 4 million medial-grade spirit stones. Originally, he had only bet 1 million medial-grade spirit stones on Xiaoqun. However, someone suddenly increased it to 1 million, doubling Gao Yangyu's losses for no reason. If Xiaoqun continued to win tomorrow and achieved his 70 consecutive victories, the payout would double again, reaching 4 times. Then, his losses would reach 800 medial-grade spirit stones. Gao Yangyu had only earned 20 million medial-grade spirit stones. After deducting the various costs and bribing his subordinates, he had only earned a few million medial-grade spirit stones. He had only obtained a few million gold coins. If Xiaoqun continued to win, he would really go bankrupt, and his reputation would be tarnished. After a while, Gao Yangyu tapped the table with his finger a few times. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Why are you all not saying anything? Are you just sitting there waiting for death?" The group of old men exchanged glances, not daring to say anything. Gao Yangyu snorted coldly. Then, he turned to the nearest old man on his left and asked, "Are you sure Feng will return tomorrow?" The old man broke out in a cold sweat. He said in a trembling voice, "It is hard to say. She said that she would return tomorrow. However, if she really does not return, there is nothing we can do about her." When Gao Yangyu heard this, his face sank slightly. A strange light flickered in his eyes as though he was making a decision. If Feng arrived tomorrow, all she had to do was end Xiaoqun's winning streak at 70 consecutive victories. Although she would suffer heavy losses, she would still be able to earn a few 100,000 medial-grade spirit stones. However, if she came late and Xiaoqun reached 80 consecutive victories, she would suffer a great loss. She would have to cough up all the money she had earned over the past few years. This was the first time Gao Yangyu encountered such a situation since he took control of Wrestling City. The Rank A wrestling ring was held only once every 3 years. In the past wrestling rings, there had never been so many geniuses. At most, there would only be 2 or 3 people competing. Even so, everything was still within Gao Yangyu's control. He had successfully defeated all the other popular characters. Chapter 451. However, they did not expect that an inferior grade martial king, whom they did not pay much attention to, would slip through their net. They had failed to assassinate him multiple times. No, I cannot afford to lose. There is no chance of that happening. It was not easy for me to reach my current position. I have worked hard for most of my life. If I lose the vast resources of Wrestling City, I will never be able to advance to Martial Monarch. Gao Yangyu finally made up his mind. He said, tomorrow, put up a notice to activate the 100 victory rule. If we are going to play, let's play it big. The moment Gao Yangyu said this, the expressions of all the old men changed. They were clearly astonished. Once the 100 victory rule was activated, if Xiao Qin obtained 100 victories, then the people who bet on him would receive 32 times their bets. This was double the original 16 times. However, the requirements were stricter as well. If Xiao Qin did not obtain 100 victories, the people who bet on him would not receive a single cent. City Lord, isn't this a little too big? An old man asked, trembling with fear. Gao Yangyu said indifferently, I am free to think about it. Most people cannot afford to play with the 100 victory rule. Once the 100 victory rule is activated, at least half of the people will stop playing early. Gao Yangyu was right. 60 consecutive victories had already allowed the people who bet on him to double their bets. The risk of a 100 victory rule was too great. Since the establishment of the wrestling ring, no one had heard of anyone obtaining 100 victories. Even in the rank A wrestling ring, no one had ever obtained 100 victories. The highest record was 80 consecutive victories in the core island of the Northern Archipelago. After the 100 victory rule was activated, most people would calmly choose to stop while they were ahead. An old man said worriedly, however, that extra 1 million medial grade spirit stones, it is clear that someone wants to make a wild gamble. He might not stop. Gao Yangyu smiled coldly and said, it is best if he stops. If he does not, I will make him lose everything. Those who go against me will not have a good ending. The crowd thought about it carefully and felt that this was a good idea. As long as they could end the 100 victory rule, they would only lose 4 million medial grade spirit stones. However, if Gao Yangyu failed, the payout of 32 times was terrifying. Not only would Gao Yangyu be finished, but they would also be finished as well. Gao Yangyu's expression eased up as he said, don't overthink. Go out and do your things. Give Shifeng 2 days. How could she not return in time? You still don't believe in her strength. When everyone thought of Shifeng's horrifying strength, they calmed down, feeling that she would not fail. Then we'll start to prepare for the publicity. I promise that before tomorrow's game starts, everyone will know about the winner's token. I'll leave first. After the old man finished speaking, he slowly left. Soon, only Gao Yangyu was left in the room. Seeing the final person disappear from his sight, Gao Yangyu's expression immediately turned grave. Killing intent filled his eyes. Under that terrifying aura, all the decorations in the room started to shake uncontrollably. Xiao Qin had spent most of his life in the ancient desolate land. Unexpectedly, an insignificant inferior grade martial king forced him to take out the all-conquering medallion. When Gao Yangyu thought about Xiao Chen's mocking smile at him in the wrestling ring, he could not suppress his rage. If not for the Heavenly Extermination Union, Gao Yangyu would have broken the wrestling ring's rules and personally killed Xiao Chen. How hateful! Bang! 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 Gao Yangyu felt depressed as he smashed his palm on the table. The flower pots, water bottles, and wind curtains in the room all exploded. Early the next morning, Xiao Chen entered the spectator stands punctually. As usual, he went to his corner and started cultivating again. When fighting with vital qi, Xiao Chen's physical body cultivation improved rapidly. In a mere 4 days, he already reached great perfection in the firmament body tempering art's 4th layer. Now that he was at the pinnacle of perfection, he would be done with the cultivation of the 4th level, and he would be able to start on the 5th level. After this opportunity, it would be very difficult to encounter such a high-intensity battle in the future. Xiao Chen intended to use the remaining 2 days to make one final push to peak consummation of the 4th layer. Now that they saw Xiao Chen's actions, no one dared to say that Xiao Chen was making a last-minute effort. If they said that, it would be like slapping their own faces. Those who said that in the past all felt their faces turn red. As time ticked by, the duels in the dueling ring continued in full swing, accompanied by the rumbling drums. However, the spectators did not pay much attention to the wrestling ring. Occasionally, they would look at the spectator stands where the contestants were. Clearly, the matches in the wrestling ring no longer attracted the crowd's attention. Unexpectedly, Gao Yangyu took out the all-conquering medallion. This is the first time in the history of Wrestling City, right? However, achieving 100 victories is too difficult. In the entire ancient desolate land, I have never heard of anyone in the other wrestling cities in the surrounding islands obtaining 100 victories. Indeed, I have already withdrawn all my bets. I have already earned 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. I don't want to lose out on something small. Me too. Otherwise, if I fail to achieve 100 victories, I will lose everything. However, I still want to see how many consecutive victories this Xiao Chen can obtain. Perhaps it is not impossible for him to obtain 100 victories. The focus of everyone's discussion was on the all-conquering medallion that Gao Yangyu took out. Their gazes were on the spectator stands, waiting for Xiao Chen to make his next appearance. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen was the last to make his appearance. They had been waiting for a long time. When the sun set again, a cultivator with sharp eyes shouted, "Xiao Chen is coming out." Everyone immediately looked over and raised their heads in anticipation. The great Qin nation's Xiao Chen seeks everyone's guidance. A familiar voice resounded throughout the wrestling ring once again. Then, a war drum resounded, and the entire wrestling city erupted into an uproar. Using vital qi to fight his enemies, Xiao Chen used his vital qi to execute the Great Dragon Tiger Fist. After 3 days of practice, he had become more familiar with it. Furthermore, he discovered that when he used his vital qi to execute the fist technique, he could perfectly materialize the mysterious phenomenon of a dragon and tiger. Its might was much stronger than when he used his essence. The dragon and tiger roared as Xiao Chen tested out his many ideas in front of his opponents. After the consecutive battles, Xiao Chen's understanding of vital qi rose to new heights. This allowed Xiao Chen to benefit a lot. Xiao Chen did not view consecutive victories as important. To him, the most important thing in these 100 battles was cultivation. The rewards of consecutive victories were very tempting. However, he could not fight for the rewards. Instead, he fought for cultivation. Xiao Chen continuously improved himself through the battles. He had never forgotten that this was only the first round of selection for the ancient desolate tower. The second round of selection would be the truly intense battles. At that time, he would have to face peak experts like Ding Fengqiu and Jiang Zimo. There were 5 or 6 people in his group. Xiao Chen did not dare say that he could defeat them all. If the other groups worked together, the situation would be even more dangerous. After all, there were only 20 slots for the ancient desolate tower. If Xiao Chen could not enter the next floor, it would be very difficult for him to obtain those 20 slots. Boom! 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 Dragon and tiger roars accompanied the rumbling of the war drums. Xiao Chen brought out his 300,000 kilograms of vital qi to the limits. His figure flickered, and when he landed on the ground, cracks would appear on the ground beneath his feet. The circulation of vital qi was much faster than that of essence. Furthermore, Xiao Chen attacked very quickly. This resulted in Xiao Chen's attacks being very sharp. After he could use his vital qi to execute the Great Dragon Tiger Fist, Xiao Chen's fighting style was different from before. Xiao Chen's aura soared, suppressing his opponent. His strong physique gave him the capital to clash head-on. He won another 6 matches. Xiao Chen already has 70 consecutive victories. This fellow's strength seems to have improved significantly compared to the past 3 days. Did you all notice? He seems to be using this wrestling ring as a place to test something. A cultivator with good observation skills asked when he saw that Xiao Chen was no longer in a sorry state. Now that you mentioned it, I noticed it as well. I remember that the great Qin nation's Xiao Chen is a bladesman. He even has the title white-robed bladesman. Today, there is a white robe. However, I do not see a saber. I noticed that he has been using his fists and legs. I thought I heard wrong. Could it be that he was in such a sorry state a few days ago just to test the results of his cultivation of his fists and legs? Then, he succeeded after 3 days. After the first cultivator spoke, the discussion about Xiao Chen's sudden turnaround suddenly increased. If this was really the case, everyone found it inconceivable. These people had clearly seen the injuries that Xiao Chen suffered in the past few days. It was hard to imagine that Xiao Chen had to endure such inhumane pain just to test out a certain aspect of his cultivation, and he had to hide his identity as a bladesman. In the end, an old man sighed softly, this youth is talented and has perseverance. He can endure torture. What's more, he has a calm state of mind. There have never been too many fluctuations because of the rewards for consecutive victories or difficult battles. In this budding age of geniuses, he will definitely be one of the most important characters on the stage. Xiao Chen's performance today had indeed surpassed many people's expectations. He had been in a sorry state for the past 4 days. It was rare for Xiao Chen to suppress his opponent and force him to retreat, holding the advantage from start to end. Ding Fengqiu, Jiang Zimo, and the others exchanged glances. They all felt somewhat astonished in their hearts. At the top of the tall pagoda in the distance, a graceful girl wearing black leather armor had appeared beside a drummer at some point in time. She carried 2 short swords crossed on her back, and she wore a half-black mask, revealing only her face above the bridge of her nose. She looked very mysterious. The skin that was exposed outside the leather armor was very delicate. It was as white as snow and looked very delicate. The figure under the black leather armor was exquisite and very alluring. The black-armored girl looked at the 2 people fighting intensely in the distant wrestling ring. She looked at the white-robed youth with interest. Her deep eyes revealed a pensive expression. She muttered softly, he is so strong just by relying on his vital qi. No wonder Gao Yangyu felt such a headache. Chapter 452. After Shi Feng spoke, she gently floated down. Then, she somersaulted nimbly through a window and arrived at the place where Gao Yangyu and the old man were discussing. Everyone, sorry, I am late. When the old man in the room saw the girl who suddenly appeared, his face immediately lit up in joy. He said, Shi Feng, you finally made it back. Gao Yangyu looked at the girl, and his expression was terrifyingly gloomy. He said coldly, do you know how much I lost when you left on your own? Shi Feng smiled faintly under the mask, I know. A few million medial-grade spirit stones. Gao Yangyu snorted coldly and said, don't forget what your adoptive father promised me. He still has not returned the favor he owes me. When Shi Feng heard this, her expression sank. She said, what my adoptive father promised you was that he would do his best to help you once in the rank A wrestling ring. However, he did not say when. Gao Yangyu raged in his heart. However, due to this girl's identity, he calmed himself down and said, very well, it's up to you. Just help me end him before he obtains 100 consecutive victories. After that, I will be even with your adoptive father. Back in the wrestling ring, after Xiao Chen dealt with his opponent with his final strike, the 5th day of the wrestling rings came to an end. Today's wrestling ring surprised everyone. Xiao Chen held the upper hand throughout the match. In the end, he obtained 18 consecutive victories. Xiao Chen's winning streak also reached a shocking 82 consecutive victories. The strength that Xiao Chen suddenly displayed caused several people to regret not persisting. If Xiao Chen really obtained 100 consecutive victories, after the victory token was activated, the payout would be 32 times. 10,000 medial grade spirit stones would become 320,000 medial grade spirit stones. When the gray-robed old man took out the spirit stones, his expression was no longer one of conflict. Instead, it was one of utter pain. He said with a smile that was uglier than crying, "Congratulations on obtaining 82 consecutive victories." 82 consecutive victories meant more than 200,000 medial grade spirit stones. Xiao Chen was already numb to this number. Originally, Xiao Chen only had slightly more than 100,000 medial grade spirit stones. Now, he had accumulated more than 500,000 medial grade spirit stones. When Ding Fengqiu, Jiang Zimo, and the others saw Xiao Chen slowly walk into the spectator stands, they were not surprised at Xiao Chen's consecutive victories. Without Gao Yangyu's sniping, both of them had obtained consecutive victories. It was completely reasonable for Xiao Chen to continue his winning streak. However, Xiao Chen sighed. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen came to the wrestling ring to test his strength. Furthermore, he succeeded. The second round of selection would probably be even more difficult to deal with in the arena point battle. As for the others, they were not so lucky. Many of them found it difficult to even obtain a single victory today. In order to obtain 60 consecutive victories, they used all their skills. It was a starry night. As usual, Xiao Chen deliberated over the battle during the day. Over the past 4 days, he would drag his injured body back to the small courtyard. Today, Xiao Chen finally gained something. He could already use his vital qi to execute martial techniques, achieving the same effect as essence. If he had a fist technique that was on par with the Wukuei saber technique, Xiao Chen was confident that he could achieve the same might as the Wukuei saber technique with just his vital qi. Of course, this was assuming that the Wukuei saber technique did not have a state. Xiao Chen discovered that when he used his vital qi, he could not merge his state with his fist technique. As far as Xiao Chen knew, Bai Lishi did not have a state either. It would be very difficult for a physical body cultivator to use a state. This was also the next problem that Xiao Chen had to overcome. However, that was a problem for the future. The thing at hand was to cultivate the firmament body tempering art's 4th layer and strive to reach peak consummation the next day. On the last day of the Rank A wrestling ring, thousands of cultivators gathered outside the wrestling ring before it even started. Even though Gao Yangyu had doubled the price of the tickets, they were still sold out immediately. It was extremely popular. If Gao Yangyu could defeat Xiao Chen in this 100 victories, he would be able to earn a lot from the ticket sales alone. However, if he lost, no matter how many tickets he sold, it would not be enough to cover the losses. Unless he spent all his savings, someone else would take over the wrestling ring. Gao Yangyu looked at Shi Feng, who was in the room, and said, "If you win, I will give you the appearance fee of 500,000 medial grade spirit stones, not a single cent less." Shi Feng said indifferently, "There is no need. Since I promised to make a move, I will definitely do my best." When Gao Yangyu heard this, he felt slightly more at ease. If Shi Feng used her full power, even he would feel some fear. The doors of the wrestling ring opened, and the crowd that had been waiting for a long time immediately swarmed in, snatching their seats. Dong! 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 The war drums rang out, and the first-ranked Yun Ping went up first. His complexion was extremely weak, and his chest ached. Xiao Chen had used at least half of his strength in that kick, further injuring Yun Ping. Without miraculous medicine, it would be difficult for Yun Ping to recover in a short period of time. If nothing unexpected happened, Yun Ping would lose 18 matches in a row. He would be eliminated in the first round of selections. Indeed, in just 3 matches, Yun Ping had used his essence carelessly, aggravating his injuries and forcing him to give up. However, the spectators did not pay any attention to Yunping's matches. They could not even be bothered to boo him. They just quietly left the wrestling ring. Some of the following contestants won, and some lost. There were many interesting matches. The matches of Jiang Zimo, Ding Fengqiu, and the others were as intense and extraordinary as before. They were very exciting and worth watching. However, they did not receive much attention. They were not much better than the matches of Yunping and the others. When Jiang Zimo returned to the spectator stands, he looked at Xiao Chen, who was still immersed in his cultivation. Then, he sighed to himself. Today, even Jiang Zimo and Ding Fengqiu had become side characters. Now, Xiao Chen was the only main character in this wrestling ring. Everyone was waiting for Xiao Chen to appear. They wanted to see if he could break the record, create history, and leave behind the legend of 100 victories. Time passed without stopping. The sun rose, and the sun rose high in the sky, blazing hot. Then, the sun set in the west, and dusk approached. Several people started to get impatient from waiting. They started to feel anxious in their hearts. Some of them even cursed the gray-robed cultivator. Why did he move Xiao Chen from number 15 to 125 for no reason? Why did he make everyone wait for so long? No matter how much time passed, what would come would come. When dusk fell, the gray-robed old man finally said, "Number 125, quickly enter the wrestling ring." Xiao Chen stopped cultivating and opened his eyes. He got up and floated gently. His figure flickered, and he landed in the wrestling ring. "The great Qi nation's Xiao Chen, please give me your guidance." A familiar voice, familiar white robes, and familiar expression. Xiao Chen appeared in the wrestling ring once again. Roar! 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 The crowd, which had been silent for a long time, immediately erupted with Xiao Chen's appearance, suppressing the continuous drumming. Jiang Zimo, Ding Fengqiu, and the others did not care about fame. However, when they saw the enthusiastic atmosphere around Xiao Chen's appearance, they felt some envy in their hearts. When they thought about how silent they were when they first appeared, they still felt some envy in their hearts. After all, the two of them did not think that Xiao Chen was stronger than them. Indeed, Xiao Chen had improved very quickly in the past 6 days. They had not stagnated either. However, their comprehension of combat was not as obvious as Xiao Chen's. Up in the tall tower, Gao Yangyu looked at Xiao Chen. His eyes looked like they were about to spew fire. He said coldly, "Heavenly tone drums." Right after Gao Yangyu spoke, someone immediately passed on Gao Yangyu's words. The war drums on the 4 towers immediately changed to the heavenly tone drums, which were high-ranked war drums made from flood dragon skin and dragon tendons. Boom! 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 The drumming stopped for a moment, and when it started again, everyone in the field could clearly feel the difference. Not only was the sound louder and more imposing, but it also contained a mental fluctuation that made everyone's qi and blood surge and filled their fighting spirit. Although the golden cauldron drum also had such an effect, it was clearly inferior to the current drum sound. When the drums in the 4 towers merged together, the crowd in the spectator stands actually felt an urge to enter the arena and fight. Their hearts unconsciously pounded along with the drum sound. This is the heavenly tone drum, the war drum that is only used in the rank S wrestling ring once every 10 years. Unexpectedly, Gao Yangyu used it on Xiao Chen. Gao Yangyu is really generous. The heavenly tone drum can make people want to fight involuntarily. During the fight, they will unconsciously bring out their full strength. It looks like Gao Yangyu put in a lot of effort to obtain 100 victories. 100 victories, 100 victories. I hope that Xiao Chen can create a miracle. The hearts of the crowd in the spectator stands surged along with the drum sound. As they looked at Xiao Chen, they treated him like he was their own incarnation. After 5 minutes, no one in the spectator stands had challenged Xiao Chen yet. Now, challenging Xiao Chen would require more than 100,000 medial-grade spirit stones. Without a certain level of confidence and wealth, it would be very difficult for anyone to make up their minds. Not everyone could afford to lose such a large sum of spirit stones. After another 5 minutes, Xiao Chen's first opponent finally appeared. It was a middle-aged man over 40 years old. He held a sword in his hand and his footsteps were very steady. His eyes were like swords, and his sword intent seemed solid as it shot towards Xiao Chen. I am Zhong Zisher. I am here to seek advice from you. Right after the middle-aged man spoke, the sword intent was already less than a meter in front of Xiao Chen. A strong wind blew, causing Xiao Chen's hair to flutter non-stop. When Xiao Chen felt this sharp sword intent, the qi in his heart automatically left his body and welcomed it. Bang! The sword intent and Xiao Chen's qi, which was about to condense into saber intent, clashed, giving off a melodious sound. It was like a real saber and sword colliding. The two forces dispersed with a loud bang, forming strands of cyclones in the sky, and ripples spread out from them. Who? The two moved at the same time. Before the qi whirlpool scattered, they executed all sorts of killing moves at each other. Dang! 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 Dragon roars and tiger roars resounded, accompanied by the hum of Zhong Zisher's sword. The intense battle started. Their figures flashed, and their speed was extremely fast. Their fists and swords clashed. In an instant, they had exchanged more than 10 moves. Surging sword qi flew everywhere and surging vital qi shot everywhere. As the two fought, the ground was soon filled with scars. Who? Who? The two of them moved quickly in the arena, not giving way to each other. Everywhere in the sky and on the ground was a battlefield of the two of them. After 300 moves, there was an intense energy fluctuation in the air. Sword qi spread out and surrounded the two of them. A horrifying energy fluctuation exploded out. Chapter 453. It looked like hundreds of flowers were blooming in the air, creating ripples. Explosions rang out continuously in the air, causing space to ripple. No one could see the situation at the center. The crowd watched this scene anxiously. They knew that this was the deciding move of the two. They were eager to know who would emerge victorious. Someone is coming out. Everyone's gazes immediately turned to that direction. They saw a middle-aged man slowly descending from the sky with a long sword in his hand. It was Zhong Zisher. The crowd's hearts tightened. Could it be that Xiao Chen lost? Pu ci. After Zhong Zisher landed, he staggered and vomited a mouthful of blood. He stabbed his sword into the ground, doing his best to maintain his posture. The crowd heaved a sigh of relief and continued to look up. After all the energy fluctuations scattered, they saw Xiao Chen floating in the air with an indifferent expression. Xiao Chen's gaze was calm. There was only a faint sword wound on his left arm, leaving traces of blood. Clearly, he was only lightly injured. Pu ci. I admit defeat. Zhong Zisher, who was on the ground, vomited another mouthful of blood. He finally gave up and left the arena. Xiao Chen slowly landed on the ground. He ignored the commotion of the outside world. His spiritual sense turned into an ancient bell and eliminated the interference from the heavenly tone drum. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and rested, quietly waiting for his second opponent. The first opponent of the day had nearly caused Xiao Chen to suffer a great loss. The spectators did not see the decisive move in the air. They only felt the surging energy fluctuations but did not know how dangerous it was. If Xiao Chen had not activated the secret technique of the blood flame shoes, it would not have been as simple as a minor injury. His entire arm might have been chopped off. No, I cannot drag out the following matches. After the 100th match, Gao Yangyu will definitely make a move. Since he dared to activate the all-around victory medallion, he must be completely confident. I have to ensure that I am strong enough to deal with the final match. I should not exhaust too much essence and vital qi. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and looked at his second opponent. His previously calm gaze turned extremely sharp. Xiao Qin had already decided to finish the next 16 matches within 50 matches. He would merge his essence with his vital qi, even if he had to use the 2 strands of dragon qi in his arms. As long as Xiao Qin did not expose his identity as a bladesman, it would be fine. He needed to ensure that he had sufficient essence, vital qi, and mental fortitude to face the final, most difficult battle. Fight! The heavenly tone drum rang out, and Xiao Qin took the initiative to make an unprecedented move. After the firmament body tempering art reached great perfection, his pure physical strength was already 350,000 tons of force. When vital qi and essence merged, it could reach a terrifying 400,000 kilograms. With a punch, a dragon roared and a tiger roared, a strong wind howled. After fighting like this, Xiao Qin finally revealed all of his strength aside from being a bladesman. Every battle ended within 50 moves, and if he discovered the opponent's obvious weakness, he would end the battle within 20 moves. By the time the 17 battles were over, the sky had turned completely dark. It wasn't because the battles had dragged on for too long. Instead, after every battle, someone would have to wait for a long time before someone made up their mind to challenge them. The closer it was to the end, the longer they had to wait. Thus, the matches lasted more than twice as long as usual. Boom! 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 Suddenly, a surging pillar of fire soared up from the surrounding pagodas, illuminating the dark wrestling ring slightly. The drummers beside the pillar of fire beat the heavenly tone drum rhythmically, not letting out a single sound from the start to the end. Xiao Qin had obtained 99 consecutive victories. Surprisingly, the spectators outside did not make any noise, they were very quiet. Great waves surged in the spectators' hearts. Who could have imagined that the miserable cultivator that no one thought highly of back then would make it this far, obtaining 99 consecutive victories? As long as Xiao Qin won one more match, he would be able to create a new record. Everyone tacitly stopped talking. Some of them could not bear to make a sound, afraid that they would disturb the white-robed youth in the wrestling ring, who was no more than 20 years old. Amidst the deathly silence, a nimble figure slowly floated down to the center of the field under the illumination of the fiery light. This person wore tight-fitting black leather armor, exposing her fair skin. Coupled with her devilish figure, she looked very alluring. However, when people raised their heads to look at the person's face, they discovered that the person was wearing a black mask that covered half of his face. Shi Feng. A melodious voice uttered these 2 simple words, but they caused a huge commotion in the spectator stands. The previous record holder of 60 consecutive victories, Shi Feng. Why is she here? I remember that 3 years ago, after she obtained 60 consecutive victories, she mysteriously withdrew from the competition. Otherwise, she might have been the first person to break the record. No wonder Gao Yangyu dared to activate the all-in-one victory medallion. 3 years ago, Shi Feng already obtained 100 consecutive victories. Now that 3 years have passed, her strength must have undergone a qualitative change. Interesting. The contestant with 60 consecutive victories from the previous 5-nation youth competition against the current Xiao Qin. This can be considered a true battle between the peak. In the somewhat dark spectator stands, the expressions of the crowd became very excited. 3 years ago, Shi Feng's appearance had been startling. She had left a deep impression on everyone. At that time, many people thought that she would break the record of 60 consecutive victories. Who knew, after she obtained 60 consecutive victories, she would mysteriously vanish. Only now did she reappear. Unexpectedly, she had become a challenger, trying to stop Xiao Chen's 100 consecutive victories. Victory and defeat were now filled with endless suspense. As Xiao Chen looked at the girl before him, he shifted his gaze to the 2 crossed short swords on her back. Based on the scabbards, the short swords were about 1 meter long and 2 fingers wide. This was the first time Xiao Chen saw a cultivator using 2 short swords. Furthermore, the other party's aura was extremely strange. With one glance, Xiao Qin could not make out Shi Feng's cultivation, what cultivation realm she was at. It was like she was shrouded in a fog that could even block spiritual sense from probing her. This was the first time Xiao Qin had seen such a situation with someone of the same generation. Normally, only martial monarchs could cause a situation that Xiao Qin could not see through. Dong! 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 The heavy sound of war drums rang out. The heavenly tone war drum, which could make one's blood surge and fill one with fighting spirit, lost its effect before these two. Xiao Qian's expression did not change. His gaze was as calm as still water, calm and peaceful. Under the mask, Shi Feng's expression was unfathomable. However, her eyes were as calm as the surface of a lake, incomparably calm. Fierce flames swayed in the cool breeze from the tall pagodas in the surroundings. When the flames shone on the two's faces, they flickered. Xiao! For a moment, the surrounding wind suddenly stopped flowing, and the flickering flame also stopped swaying. It was like the two had agreed on this beforehand. Their figures flashed at the same time, and after a while, they started fighting. Ka Xie. Shi Feng drew the two 3-meter-long swords on her back. The blades were cold and gleaming with a bone-piercing chill. Shi Feng held the two short swords and spun them around. She moved around Xiao Qian, moving up and down like a leaf in the wind. As she moved around, hundreds of afterimages appeared. The sword lights on the afterimages were dazzling. They looked both real and fake at the same time, making them hard to grasp. Xiao Qian's expression changed slightly. He quickly swept his gaze through the countless figures, trying to find Shi Feng's true body. However, when Xiao Qian scanned the afterimages with his spiritual sense, he found that every afterimage seemed to be shrouded in a black fog. There was no way to find the other party's true body. Since Xiao Qian could not find her, then he might as well break them all. Xiao Qian shouted, and a dragon and a tiger mysterious phenomenon quickly appeared around him. Boom! 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 Xiao Qian's hands danced around, bringing his attacking speed to its limits. Countless fist images filled the sky. Every time a fist wind appeared, the air would be filled with countless fists. Every fist wind was accompanied by the roars of a tiger and a dragon, causing Xiao Qian's aura to soar. Ka Xie! Ka Xie! Xiao Qian shattered the afterimages into pieces. Hu Qi! The shattered afterimages turned into a powerful gust of wind that wreaked havoc in the area. They formed a terrifying storm that roared continuously. When Xiao Qian saw the final afterimage, he revealed a faint smile. He merged his vital qi and essence and punched. However, to Xiao Qian's surprise, the final afterimage shattered and turned into countless air currents that scattered with the wind. Oh no! Xiao Qian's expression suddenly changed. His intuition told him to punch to his right. Bang! The fist wind exploded, and Shi Feng appeared in front of him from nowhere. A sword light flickered on her short sword as she ruthlessly hacked at Xiao Qian's fist wind. A strange expression flashed in Shi Feng's eyes. She found it strange that Xiao Qian managed to guess where she would appear. However, his hands did not stop moving at all. The short sword in Shi Feng's left hand spun around and gripped tightly. Then, it gave off a sharp, cold light as it chopped down at Xiao Qian. The sword light struck Xiao Qian's right fist, forcing him to move back. When he saw the other short sword chopping down, he quickly tilted his body to the side. Hu Qi! When Shi Feng's left hand missed, she swung her right hand out. The short sword immediately gave off a cold light as it swept at Xiao Qian's face. Shi Feng's movements were very smooth, not pausing at all. Shi Feng's attack speed was actually not slower than Xiao Qian's. Furthermore, the angle of attack was even more crafty. Xiao Qian did not have time to catch his breath. He quickly tilted his head back. The short sword stuck close to his face and quickly flashed by, chopping off a few strands of Xiao Qian's hair. Qi! Qi! Shi Feng pressed forward with every step. Every strike was aimed at Xiao Qian's vital points. Her two swords danced around quickly, suppressing Xiao Qin's so much that he did not even have a chance to catch his breath. When the spectators saw the two of them fighting in close combat, their hearts leaped. At this moment, if Xiao Qin made even the slightest mistake, he would immediately die. Shi Feng is indeed Shi Feng. Almost no one in the same cultivation realm can break her dual sword style. She is much stronger than she was 3 years ago. Indeed, it was the same 3 years ago. Any cultivator that she managed to get close to could only last 50 moves at most before being defeated. Every sword strike is a killing move. Every sword strike is extremely dangerous. If one cannot dodge it, they will immediately die. One can imagine how much mental pressure the person fighting her must be under. Xiao Qin is in danger. It looks like 100 consecutive victories is something that I can only hope for. Fortunately, I took away the wager in advance. Otherwise, I would have nothing left. When the spectators saw Xiao Qin dodging every step of the way, they could not help but shake their heads and sigh. In the end, it was too difficult to achieve 100 consecutive victories. Chapter 454. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere as Shi Feng's two swords buzzed. Sword lights flew out like ribbons, creating ripples in the air. I cannot continue like this. I cannot adapt to her rhythm, Xiao Qin thought to himself. The speed at which Shi Feng swung her two swords did not follow any pattern at all. She did not move at a uniform speed, nor did she increase her tempo. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Furthermore, there were real moves and fake moves. The changes were unpredictable and could not be dodged using common sense. There were several times when Xiao Qin nearly made an error in judgment. The sword lights nearly struck his vital points. Fortunately, he dodged in advance and only left a few wounds in unimportant areas. Forget it, I can't continue to be entangled with him like this. In such close combat, he can completely restrain me. Blood Flame Shu's secret technique, activate. With a thought from Xiao Qin, the patterns on the black blood flame shoes slowly lit up. The two black-winged blood flame eagles quickly spread out. Xiao! In an instant, Xiao Qian's speed reached Mach 4 as he flew back a kilometer. When Shi Feng saw Xiao Qin suddenly leave, she was mildly startled. However, when she saw the boots on his feet, she was slightly startled. However, when she saw the boots on his feet, she immediately understood that this secret technique was a one-time use item. She withdrew her feet and the short sword in her right hand spun quickly. Profound Wind Chop. Xiao Qin shouted, and the spinning short sword flew out of his hand. It turned into a storm of sword qi and surged towards Xiao Qin, who had just landed. Xiao Qin was astonished as he said, Qingyun Peak's 9 secret techniques, Profound Wind Chop. Furthermore, this was not an ordinary Profound Wind Chop. It was a modified version of the Profound Wind Chop, turning it into a storm of swords. Its might was even stronger than the original version. Shi Feng switched the short sword in her left hand to her right hand. She did not pause for even a moment as she followed the incredibly sharp storm of swords. Hoo! Hoo! A cool breeze blew for no reason. Shi Feng, who was holding the short sword, vanished into thin air, as though she had melted into the cool breeze. Xiao Qian's expression changed. He was very familiar with this move. It was the Great Perfection Clear Wind Chop. What exactly was this Shi Feng's identity? How did he learn Qingyun Peak's secret technique? What was a secret technique? It was a strong martial technique that could only be taught privately. An ordinary person, even a core disciple, would not be able to learn Qingyun Peak's secret techniques. While he was slightly absent-minded, the mystic wind chop was already right in front of him. He didn't have any time to think. Crossing his arms, Xiao Qian's feet were firmly planted on the ground, as steady as Mount Tai. His aura continued to accumulate. This was his strongest defensive counterattack technique, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Bang! The mysterious wind chop, which emitted a violent gust of qi, collided in front of Xiao Chen, giving off an earth-shattering sound. A horrifying wave of qi swept out in all directions. After the shockwave passed, apart from where Xiao Chen was standing, the surrounding ground had been shaved off a foot deep, as if it had been washed away by the waves. Xiao Chen's white robes were tattered by the sword qi, and his skin was covered in wounds. However, fortunately, they were not fatal, and the wounds were not deep. Looking at the empty space in front of him, Xiao Chen said sullenly, "I have been waiting for you for a long time." Dragon hissing tiger roars. When Xiao Chen punched, a deafening dragon roar and a tiger roar tore through the mountains and rivers. At this moment, the strong energy that crouching tiger, hidden dragon had accumulated was unleashed 100-fold, surging forth. Bang! Shi Feng, who was hidden in the cool breeze, felt surprised at how Xiao Chen figured out her position. However, she did not hesitate to charge forward. A berserk energy exploded from the sword and fist. When the two of them clashed head-on, they were actually evenly matched. Neither of them moved back. Shi Feng waved her left hand, and the other short sword floating in the air started spinning rapidly. Unexpectedly, it formed another profound wind chop in a short instant. Damn it! Xiao Chen cursed in his heart. This was the crucial moment when the two of them competed in strength. He did not expect Shi Feng to be able to split her attention and execute another profound wind chop. Left without a choice, Xiao Chen could only break off the clash and quickly retreat. However, it was too late. Although the profound wind chop only had a small portion of its previous might, it had the advantage of being fast and sudden. It crashed into the retreating Xiao Chen. Bang! 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 Even though Xiao Chen had a strong physical body, he was still knocked back. He vomited a mouthful of blood in the air, and his complexion paled. Shi Feng looked at Xiao Chen, who was like a broken kite, on the verge of falling. Shi Feng stretched out her hand and called back her other short sword. She muttered, "A strong physical body and surging vital qi. However, your close combat techniques are very lame. If this is all you have, you can die already." In the end, his close combat techniques were still lacking. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly in the air. However, it was not a big deal. Xiao Chen had finally established a solid foundation for his close combat techniques in the past few days of intense battles. In the future, all he had to do was obtain a high-ranked close combat martial technique. His close combat prowess would undergo a qualitative change. Xiao Chen wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth and waved his hand. The lunar shadow saber appeared in his right hand from the universe ring. A smile appeared on Xiao Chen's face as he muttered, "In the end, I can only use the saber in my hand to end this battle." Hu Qi. Xiao Chen somersaulted in the air and landed firmly on the ground. In the darkness of the night, he held the lunar shadow saber and slowly walked towards Shi Feng in his white robes. He really is a bladesman. It looks like the rumors are true. How surprising. He was only using the battles a few days ago to practice his close combat techniques. Does that mean that his true strength is as a bladesman? Several people in the spectator stands exclaimed in astonishment when they saw the white-robed youth holding the lunar shadow saber stand up again. It was hard to imagine that in this rank A wrestling ring, Xiao Chen had used the aspect that he was not good at to obtain 99 consecutive victories. Even if Xiao Chen lost today, his name as the white-robed bladesman would spread throughout the entire southern islands in the future. A bladesman who only used his close combat techniques obtained a streak of 99 consecutive victories. From a certain point of view, this was already a miracle. Shi Feng frowned slightly. She had not expected Xiao Chen's physical body to be so strong. Even after enduring a small profound wind chop, he still had such a strong aura. What was even more unexpected was that Xiao Chen was a bladesman. His close combat techniques and physical body were just to support his strength. Xiao Chen stopped and looked at the mysterious masked girl in front of him. He said, "The 9 secrets of Qingyun Peak are never taught to outsiders. Who exactly are you?" Shi Feng said indifferently, I don't know what you are talking about. All you need to know is that I am the one who defeated you. Right after Shi Feng spoke, her figure flashed, and a cool breeze blew. The killing chi on Shi Feng's body immediately vanished, and she slowly hid herself in the cool breeze. Clear wind chop, I seem to know it as well. Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he immediately split into 9. 9 cool breezes appeared in the wrestling ring at the same time. Xiao Chen's killing chi also vanished without a trace. The expression of Shi Feng, who was hidden in the cool breeze, immediately changed. She finally understood how Xiao Chen could find her. It turned out that he knew the clear wind chop as well. Furthermore, he had merged it with his cloning technique. His attainments were not much lower than hers. The 9 figures headed for a certain spot in the air at the same time. Boom! Suddenly, 9 claps of thunder roared in the sky. It was Xiao Chen's 9 clones drawing their sabers at the same time. Shi Feng revealed herself. Her expression was not clear under the mask. She swung both her swords at the same time, and a crescent blood moon appeared at the tip of her sword. Bang! Bang! The clones were struck by the blood moon and immediately scattered, vanishing. Peerless Lunar Shadow. Unexpectedly, it is one of Qing Yun Peak's 9 secret techniques. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. He was even more familiar with this peerless lunar shadow than the clear wind chop. After merging the remaining clones, Xiao Chen sent out 2 saber strikes. The saber light of the state of thunder was very dazzling in the night sky. Break! Just as the 2 blood moons were about to merge, they scattered with a loud bang, causing them to be unable to form a complete full moon. When Shi Feng saw the 2 crescent moons scatter, her expression under the mask was astonished. Unexpectedly, this Xiao Chen understood the peerless lunar shadow so well. Could it be that he knows all of my killing moves like the back of his hand? That does not matter. As long as I get close, I can rely on my dual sword style to obtain victory. Shi Feng's gaze turned resolute again. Her figure flashed, and she charged at Xiao Chen again. Dang! 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 Now that Xiao Chen had a saber in his hand, how could he make the same mistake as before and give her a chance to get close? Xiao Chen sent out a screen of sabers flickering with electric light. He relied on his speed, which was no weaker than Shi Feng's, and his exquisite saber techniques to keep his opponent at a distance of 2 meters, preventing her from getting close. The Xiao Chen who used his fists and legs and the saber were simply 2 different people. The more Shi Feng fought, the more horrified she became. Although Xiao Chen's fists and legs looked strong to her, they were second-rate at best. In close combat, they posed no threat to her. However, the moment Xiao Chen switched to a saber, he became a completely different person. He used all sorts of exquisite saber techniques together with the steps of his saber techniques. He was so proficient that there were no openings or weaknesses. No matter how hard Shi Feng tried, she could not break through his screen of sabers. She was kept at a distance of 2 meters. Xiao Chen brought out the essence of 1 inch longer, 1 inch stronger, to its limits, preventing her from bringing out the advantage of her short sword. Xiao! Xiao! After exchanging more than 100 moves, Shi Feng still could not get close to Xiao Chen. Her figure flashed, and she used the same method she used to get close to Xiao Chen. As Shi Feng swung her saber up and down, she created many indistinguishable figures. However, her true figure remained hidden. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, after using the same move twice, will it still work? A purple light flickered under Xiao Chen's feet, and a purple flower bud appeared. It wrapped around Xiao Chen, allowing the sword lights that filled the sky to chop down on the flower bud. The color of the flower bud's eyes deepened. More flower petals appeared out of nowhere. Xiao Chen, who was in the flower bud, quickly formed hand seals with his left hand. Wukue flower blooms. Xiao Chen shouted, and the flower bud immediately opened. A surging lightning-attributed energy surged out and scattered the figures surrounding the flower bud. Purple flower petals immediately danced in the wrestling ring under the night sky. It looked very beautiful. Dang! Xiaochen casually waved his hand behind him. Then, he turned around and used his saber to knock back Shifeng, who tried to sneak attack him from behind. Xiaochen could sense Shifeng, who was hiding in the cool breeze, even faster. To him, there was nowhere to hide. Chapter 455. It is time for me to attack. Xiaochen pushed off the ground and soared into the air. He executed Wukuei shakes the heavens. A purple Wukuei tree as large as a mountain pressed down on Shifeng with the might of 1,000 troops. Shifeng's two swords spun quickly and formed two profound wind chops. She merged them into one and quickly welcomed the attack. Bang! Thunder rumbled. Xiaochen's divine Wukuei tree shattered the storm formed by the swords. Xiaochen pierced through the shock wave and brandished his saber, chasing after the retreating Shifeng. As the petals fell, Xiaochen's speed increased again. In an instant, he caught up to the retreating Shifeng. Dang! 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 Xiaochen brandished his saber continuously. Electric light flickered as Xiaochen suppressed Shifeng, forcing her to retreat continuously. Shifeng brandished her two swords. However, she felt very depressed in her heart. Her killing moves, Clear Wind Chop, Peerless Lunar Shadow, and Profound Wind Chop, seemed to be very familiar with them. They posed no threat to her at all. It was like after she recovered her identity as a bladesman, Xiaochen completely suppressed her. Boom! 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 Every time Xiaochen swung his saber, thunder roared incessantly. The electric light on the saber was transmitted to Shifeng's arm, making her feel numb. Under Xiaochen's suppression, the other party's state of wind was able to bring out its full potential. Defeat. Suddenly, Xiaochen's sword lit up alternately. Two beams of purple and red light merged with the state of massacre and state of thunder. The sudden appearance of the state of massacre stunned Shifeng. While she was distracted, Xiaochen used his saber to knock away the short sword in her left hand. Stepping forward, Xiaochen used his saber to knock away the second short sword in Shifeng's right hand. Xiaochen quickly dodged. As his opponent retreated, he placed his saber on Shifeng's neck. You lost. Was he defeated? When Shifeng, who was under the mask, heard Xiaochen's calm words, she still felt some disbelief. However, when she saw the flickering electric saber on her neck, she had no choice but to accept this reality. Damn it, if you didn't understand my killer moves so well, I wouldn't have lost to you. If she could successfully execute Peerless Lunar Shadow, she was 70% confident that she could turn the tide of the battle in one move. However, before the mysterious phenomenon truly formed, Xiaochen found an opening and directly scattered the killing move. Xiaochen said calmly, "You're taking it for granted. You can leave. For the sake of the 9 secrets of Qingyun, I won't hurt you." Kacha! Xiaochen sheathed his saber and walked calmly towards the grey-robed old man. There, he would obtain the final reward for his 100 victories, 3 million medial-grade spirit stones. Deep into the night, the lanterns flickered. There was not much noise in the vast wrestling ring. When the 20,000-odd cultivators in the spectator stands saw the white-robed youth holding a 1-meter-long saber, they were speechless for a long time. Originally, they thought that when they obtained 100 victories, they would be extremely excited. However, when they saw the miracle, they all calmed down. The shock they felt was over. In the 6 days of wrestling rings, this youth had brought too much shock to the crowd. Now, they could only sigh to themselves. The era of the youth had truly arrived. AI, this youth seems to be no more than 20 years old. Such strength and mental state, it puts us to shame, a martial king old man sighed softly. His tone was somewhat desolate. Cultivators all had a desire to improve themselves. They desired to reach the peak. When they were young, who did not dream of becoming famous and shaking the world? The stories of their ancestors were passed down from generation to generation. Who did not have such fantasies when they were young? Why did they enter the martial Tao? Aside from being superior to others, it was probably to find their dreams. However, as they grew older, they gave up on their dreams. Perhaps they were restricted by the mundane affairs of the mortal world, unable to extricate themselves. Perhaps they were content with enjoying themselves, delaying their cultivation. Perhaps they had evil thoughts and walked the wrong path. The distance from the peak of the martial Tao became increasingly distant. Now, this was the budding era of the Age of Geniuses. The most glorious stage for cultivators had already been set up. However, they were no longer players. They could not even play a supporting role. They could only be silent spectators. When these people saw Xiao Chen's calm and indifferent expression after his victory, they sighed in their hearts. He did not look any different from before. Not to mention his strength, just his mentality alone was far inferior to theirs. In this age of geniuses, this person would definitely be one of the most important characters. Let's go. It is time to disperse. There is nothing left for us to do. We have already withdrawn our bets. Victory or defeat no longer has anything to do with us. Everyone shook their heads. In this vast night, they all had somewhat disappointed expressions. However, in an unremarkable corner of the spectator stands, Bai Lishi laughed loudly. His laughter was very strange and unimaginable. Bai Lishi was rather famous in the southern islands. Many people recognized him. One of them asked doubtfully, Bai Lishi, what are you laughing at? His victory has nothing to do with you. Bai Lishi slammed his palm heavily on the armrest of his chair. He glared at that person and said, this lord wants to laugh. It is none of your business. Are you not convinced? Crazy, that person cursed in his heart. He ignored Bai Lishi and walked out of the arena. When Bai Lishi saw Xiao Chen in the arena, he stood up. He could not stop laughing. If one looked carefully, they would discover that Bai Lishi's huge axe, which never left his side, was nowhere to be seen. His fingers were empty, there was not a single spatial ring. His feet were even more exaggerated, he was not even wearing shoes. After a while, Bai Lishi stopped laughing. When he felt the pain in his butt, he said, you did not kick this lord's butt for nothing. It was worth it. After Xiao Chen kicked him out, Bai Lishi rested for one night. Then, he made a crazy decision. Not only did he pawn his medial grade secret treasure, but he also pawned the secret treasures that he obtained from Xiao Chen and the heaven-ranked body tempering secret manual. He also pawned some of the natural treasures that he had collected over the past few decades. Including his own wealth, he had a total of 600,000 medial grade spirit stones. That was not enough. Then, he went to some of his close friends and borrowed from them. Eventually, he managed to gather a total of 1 million medial grade spirit stones and bet them all on Xiao Chen. When the all-victory medallion was activated and everyone started to draw their bets, Bai Lishi did not hesitate at all. He continued to bet decisively. Based on his intuition, Bai Lishi was certain that Xiao Chen was someone with great luck. He would not lose. Indeed, he had made the right bet. Now, Xiao Chen had obtained 100 victories. If one asked who the biggest winner was, it would definitely be Bai Lishi. With a 32-fold multiplier, 1 million medial grade spirit stones became 32 million. Even though Xiao Chen worked himself to the bone, the total reward for all his consecutive victories was only 4 million medial grade spirit stones. It was not even a fraction of Bai Lishi's. I have to keep a low profile first. I cannot let others know that I took these 30 million medial grade spirit stones, Bai Lishi muttered to himself as he nodded. Bai Lishi nodded and muttered to himself. Then, he followed the crowd out barefooted, doing his best not to laugh. This caused Bai Lishi's expression to be extremely strange. His originally unsightly face became even more conflicted. Everyone could not help but look at him. Some people rejoiced, while others were sad. In the tall tower, when Gao Yangyu saw Shifeng leave, all his hopes turned to dust. He looked like he had aged 10 years. Gao Yangyu knew that he had nothing left. He no longer had any power or status. More importantly, he no longer had any hope of advancing to martial monarch. In the ancient desolate land, all the wrestling cities in the various islands were under the jurisdiction of the desolate city's wrestling city. After causing such a huge loss, Gao Yangyu would definitely lose his city lord position. Who was the master behind the desolate city's wrestling city? Gao Yangyu was very clear on this. If he ran away with the money, there would be no place for him to hide even at the ends of the world. Gao Yangyu's gaze moved back and forth between Shifeng and Xiaochen. Finally, he fixed his gaze on Xiaochen. He could not afford to offend Shifeng's adoptive father. However, it was different for Xiaochen. Without the backing of a powerful clan, killing Xiaochen was not a big deal. Since you made me lose everything, I will not let you have an easy time. Those who oppose me, Gao Yangyu, will not have a good ending. Gao Yangyu's gaze turned cold as he thought to himself. He hated that he could not go down now and personally skin Xiaochen alive. However, Xiaochen had already passed the first round of selections. If he killed him now, it would be a slap in the face of the Heavenly Extermination Union. Furthermore, Gao Yangyu was the most suspicious. If he left any clues, the Heavenly Extermination Union would make an example out of him. He could only wait for an opportunity. This is your 3 million medial-grade spirit stones. Count them, the gray-robed old man said in a trembling voice as he watched Xiaochen return victorious. Xiaochen scanned them with his spiritual sense. After he verified that there were no mistakes, he placed the boxes of medial-grade spirit stones into his universe ring. Up in the spectator stands, all the outstanding talents revealed envious expressions. 3 million medial-grade spirit stones. Even a regular martial monarch would find it difficult to take out such a large sum. To these outstanding talents, even if they had the backing of a large sect and did not lack medicinal pills, secret manuals, or cultivation techniques, they would not be able to obtain so many medial-grade spirit stones. Jiang Zimo walked over and smiled at Xiaochen. He said, "Congratulations, Brother Xiao. 100 consecutive victories and 3 million medial-grade spirit stones. In less than half a week, your name will spread throughout the entire southern islands." Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "It is just an empty reputation. This is just the beginning. If I cannot obtain the 20 spots to enter the ancient desolate tower, everything will be for naught." Indeed, the ancient desolate tower was very important to cultivators. It was not something that could be compared to spirit stones. This was only the first round of selections. No matter how outstanding his results were, if he could not obtain one of the 20 spots, it would be meaningless. Mu Xinya said softly, "It's good that you understand. After all, fighting in the wrestling ring is just exchanging blows with regular cultivators. In the arena battles, you will have to fight against people with talent, aptitude, cultivation techniques, martial techniques, secret treasures, and combat experience that are not inferior to yours. The nature of the two is completely different. Furthermore, there might be some people who gave up on consecutive victories to hide their trump cards. You cannot underestimate these people." Xiaochen looked at Mu Xinya and smiled, "Like you?" Mu Xinya smiled, neither denying nor admitting it. She said, "Work hard, I look forward to entering the ancient desolate tower with you. I will take my leave first." After the two of them left, Xia Xian and Xiaoro walked over. Xiaoro had only obtained 50 consecutive victories and was eliminated in the first round of selections. Chapter 456. Xiaoro did not seem dispirited. One did not need to win in the wrestling ring to gain a harvest. After the many battles, her combat experience had improved significantly. To Xiaoro, this was a harvest as well. Xia Xian first congratulated Xiao Chen. Then, she reminded him, be careful for the next few days. I noticed a few people looking at you with hostile gazes. Thank you, I will take note of that. Xiao Chen understood what she meant. 3 million medial-grade spirit stones was sufficient for many people to take the risk. 3 days later, all the cultivators who obtained 60 victories received a notice. They gathered at Li Xiuzhu's residence once again. There were originally 200 people in the hall. Now, only 60-odd people remained. The first round eliminated 2/3 of the people. Those who were eliminated were not necessarily weak. Even if they were placed in a different place, they would still be outstanding talents with a bright future. However, in this era, there would always be someone stronger than the strong. If they did not have any fortuitous encounters in the future, these people would only end up as second-rate geniuses. The 60-odd outstanding talents in the hall excitedly waited for Li Xiuzhu's arrival. They chatted with each other in soft voices. The next stop was the famous desolate city. It was one of the 2 great cities of the Tianwu continent, the city that connected the 4 great empires. 10,000 years ago, that dynasty had even named the entire continent. Even now, that name had not changed. Several people were like Xiao Chen, they had never been to Desolate City before. They were very curious about this mysterious city. Dong! 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 Li Xiuzhu led his 4 assistants in through the back door. Then, he swept his gaze across everyone's faces. Li Xiuzhu's gaze lingered on Xiao Chen's face for 2 seconds. Then, he snorted coldly before looking away. Originally, Li Xiuzhu thought that with Gao Yangyu's help, Xiao Chen would be eliminated in the first round. He would let everyone know that anyone who offended Li Xiuzhu would not have a good time. However, who knew, not only did Xiao Chen not get eliminated, but he even miraculously obtained 100 consecutive victories. He even attracted the attention of the upper echelon of the Heavenly Extermination Union. When Xiao Chen felt Li Xiuzhu's gaze, he remained expressionless and ignored him. Gao Yangyu's actions of making things difficult for Xiao Chen was definitely related to this person. Li Xiuzhu collected his thoughts and said indifferently, I will not speak any more nonsense. Follow me to Desolate City first. After we arrive, someone will inform you of the start of the second round of selections. Follow me. After going out, Li Xiuzhu led his 4 deputies and soared into the sky. Everyone quickly followed behind them. Li Xiuzhu and the others did not increase their speed. If they traveled at full speed, given their strength as a half-step martial monarch, they would be able to shake them off in an instant. Hoo-hoo! The wind blew past them. The outstanding talents from all over the world continued to fly in the air. Although martial kings could fly in the air, staying in the air consumed a lot of essence. Most martial kings would not choose to fly unless there was something special. This was because, after a long time, no matter how much essence they had, they would not be able to withstand the drain. Only when one became a martial monarch could one truly learn to fly in the air. At that time, one would only need a small amount of essence to fly for a long time. After 4 hours, the group had already flown a long distance away from Longyang Island. Many of the cultivators following behind were starting to feel a little tired. They quickly took out medicinal pills to recover essence and swallowed them. Otherwise, if they could not hold on and fell down, it would be embarrassing. Xiao Chen executed the gravity spell and followed behind unhurriedly. He seemed to be at ease. The fact that the gravitational spell consumed little energy was evident here. After flying for another hour, a black warship appeared before everyone's eyes. This warship was more than 200 meters long and dozens of meters wide. On the side of the ship, there was a black flag, fluttering in the wind and making loud noises. A few old men stood on the deck, looking at Xiao Chen's group with interest. We have arrived. Let's go up. Li Xiuzhu took the lead and leaped onto the deck. The various outstanding talents heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they were not flying directly to Desolate City. Otherwise, they would have exhausted themselves to death. They quickly followed. Old man Li, you are a little slow. I have already waited for an hour. Who in your group obtained 100 victories? Call him out for me to see. An old man with a profound cultivation and extraordinary aura asked Li Xiuzhu curiously after sizing up the group. Li Xiuzhu said reluctantly, Xiao Chen, come out for a while. This is old Lu, one of the judges for the second round of selection. Xiao Chen leaped over the crowd and performed a cupped fist salute. Xiao Chen greets Senior Lu. As Xiao Chen spoke, he sized up the old man before him. Like Li Xiuzhu, this person was also a half-step martial monarch. However, for some reason, this old man gave Xiao Chen the feeling that he was stronger than Li Xiuzhu. When the spectators saw that Xiao Chen was already speaking to the chief referee before the second round of selections began, they could not help but reveal an envious expression. Old Lu carefully sized up Xiao Chen. Then, he revealed an astonished expression. He said, you are really only an inferior grade martial king. This is unbelievable. You do not seem to belong to a sect, right? Are you interested in joining the Blood Wolf Gang? Our Blood Wolf Gang is a peak faction in the ancient desolate land. We are no weaker than the peak sects of the other nations. Xiao Chen felt embarrassed. He had never met such a direct person before, inviting him to join the sect on their first meeting. The Blood Wolf Gang. When Xiao Chen first met Xia Xian, she had mentioned it before. At that time, the Blood Wolf Gang was fighting with the remnants of the Dark Church. Xiao Chen did not know if there was a result yet. The Blood Wolf Gang was indeed very strong in the ancient desolate land. They were much stronger than the Holy Fire Manor. If Xiao Chen joined the Blood Wolf Gang, even if the Holy Fire Manor's Manor Lord made a move, he would not dare to do anything to Xiao Chen. However, Xiao Chen had no intention of joining another sect. If he had such thoughts, he would have accepted the invitation of the Haotian sect's supreme elder back at Qianren Island. No matter how strong the Blood Wolf Gang was, there was still a large gap between them and the Haotian sect. However, Li Xiuzhu felt somewhat nervous. If Xiao Chen joined the Blood Wolf Gang, it would be very difficult to deal with him in the ancient desolate land. Xiao Chen rejected politely, I'm sorry, this junior has no intention of joining a sect for now. Many thanks for old Lu's kind intentions. Old Lu smiled and said, there is no rush, there is no rush. I will wait for you to make your decision. The warship quickly flew towards Desolate City. It was several times faster than the crowd. Xiao Chen stood on the deck and looked at the scenery in front of him in boredom. Ha ha! Xiao Chen, you are really in high demand. The moment we meet, there are people fighting to recruit you. Melodious laughter came from behind him. When Xiao Chen turned his head back, he saw Xia Xian walking over. Xiao Rou, who had been following Xia Xian, had not obtained 60 victories. She could only take a warship or a flying spirit beast to Desolate City. Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, in that case, are you here to represent the Thousand Sword Pavilion to invite me to join? Xia Xian said straightforwardly, sure. As long as you change to learning the sword, I will immediately recommend you. I guarantee that you will be a core disciple in the inner sect. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not reply. He knew that the other party was just joking. Don't think that I am joking. I am serious. As long as you change to learning the sword, I will immediately recommend you. Seeing Xia Xian's serious expression, Xiao Chen asked softly, why? Xia Xian nodded and said, I believe that after you left the great Qin nation, you must have received invitations from some sections. Have you thought about why? When Xiao Chen heard this, he was slightly stunned. He said, I have definitely thought about it. I do not belong to any sect. My talent is passable. Aside from this, could there be other reasons? Of course. Xia Xian explained, the most important reason is that in the next 5-nation youth competition, if you can obtain a high ranking, you will be able to obtain an invisible amount of luck. This kind of luck will bring many unexpected benefits to the sect you are in. That is to say, they think that you have a chance of obtaining a high ranking, which will bring luck to their sect. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. Although he believed in the existence of luck, he did not understand the concept of obtaining luck from a competition. Luck, something as elusive as comprehension, can be obtained this way. Xia Xian nodded and said, "There is nothing to be confused about. This is already confirmed. The secret lies in the wind cloud arena of the competition grounds. I heard that it is a mysterious place that can connect to the upper realm." Xiao Chen entered deep thought. Given this, I have to go to the 5-nation youth competition. From a certain point of view, what makes a cultivator successful is not talent, aptitude, or comprehension. Instead, it is the elusive and boundless luck. The black warship continued to fly at 4 times the speed of sound amidst the clouds. After 4 hours, the silhouette of a city appeared before everyone's eyes. This was a city built on water. It was boundlessly vast and majestic. The city walls were tall and thick, looking very ancient. It looked ancient and heavy. 6 ancient demonic energy cannons were erected on top of the city walls every 10 meters. When one counted carefully, there were at least 3,000 ancient demonic energy cannons on the city walls that were more than 2,000 meters long. There were also countless holes of various sizes in the city walls. Unexpectedly, there were also ancient demonic energy cannons at the bottom of these holes. In total, there were at least 10,000 ancient demonic energy cannons. With 10,000 ancient demonic energy cannons firing at the same time, even a peak martial monarch would fall on the spot. Just thinking about it made one tremble in fear. The 18 city gates in front were open. Countless ships entered and exited the main city gates in an orderly manner. Rows of soldiers floated on the water in front of the city gates. They moved about like they were on flat ground, maintaining order at the city gates. The black warship slowly descended, but it did not fly over the city walls. Xiao Chen looked around and discovered that there were merchant ships and flying beasts in the surroundings. They all descended towards the water as well. It looked like this desolate city did not allow any warship or spirit beast to fly over him. Pa! The warship landed on the surface of the heavenly extermination lake and splashed on both sides. Then, it slowly headed for the main city gate. Chapter 457. When the surrounding ships and cultivators riding on spirit beasts saw the banners on the warships, they all gave way. The guards in front of the city gate also glanced at the people on the bow of the ship and ignored them. They did not even need to pay the entrance tax, they were allowed to pass without any obstruction. After passing through the tunnel under the city walls, the view before the crowds suddenly widened. Countless people moved about on the streets on both sides of the river. There were cultivators from the various nations and fiend race cultivators. There were many of them, so many that they could not be counted. It was very bustling. The surrounding buildings all looked very grand. They still maintained the characteristics of the Tianwu dynasty, making them feel like they had traveled to 10,000 years ago. Is this desolate city? On the deck, outstanding talents from all over the world sighed in their hearts. The other cultivators, including Xiao Chen, also looked around curiously. Just at this moment, a huge warship several stories tall appeared before everyone's eyes. This could no longer be described as a warship. It was simply a moving castle on the water. There were 3 golden banners on the bow of the warship. The words, "Treasured Moon Pavilion," were written on the banners in bold strokes. Xia Xian, who was beside Xiao Chen, said, "This is the Treasured Moon Pavilion, the largest auction house in Desolate City. They hold a large-scale auction every month." Xiao Chen was surprised. He asked, "You've been to Desolate City before?" Xia Xian nodded and said, "I've been here a few times. The Treasured Moon Pavilion has many good things. There will definitely be plenty of martial arts manuals that you are looking for." Xiao Chen felt it was strange. He asked, "How did you know that I was looking for martial arts manuals?" Xiao Chen's martial arts were actually not weak. His medial-grade earth-ranked fist technique was sufficient for him to deal with most cultivators of the same cultivation realm. However, he was slightly inferior to the geniuses of the same generation. Among the same generation, at his cultivation realm, which one of them did not learn superior grade earth-ranked martial techniques or even peak superior grade earth-ranked martial techniques? Xia Xian smiled and said, "Everyone can tell that if your martial arts improved and combined it with your physical body, you might be able to fight on equal footing with Shifeng without even drawing your saber." Xiao Chen felt relieved. Xia Xian had watched so many of his matches. It was not strange for her to be suspicious of him. It's a pity that the treasured moon tower only holds a large-scale auction once every 6 months. Only then will there be real top-notch treasures. If you are in urgent need of fist and leg-related martial techniques, you can go to the ancient desolate underground market to take a look. There are all sorts of people there. You might be able to find something good there. Xia Xian did not stop talking. She introduced many things to Xiao Chen. The matters of Desolate City were an eye-opener for Xiao Chen. Rivers crisscrossed the Desolate City. The black warship followed the river, and after making several turns, it stopped at a bank. Li Xiuzhu came out of the ship's hold and led the group ashore. 1 hour later, he led the group to a plaza. A statue several hundred meters tall stood on a tall platform in the center of the plaza. The statue held a sword and pointed it at the sky. This was the Tianwu Emperor, who founded the Tianwu dynasty. This statue had stood there for an unknown period of time. A simple and vast aura came from the statue, spreading throughout the entire plaza. When the group walked in the middle, they could feel a strange solemnity. Around the statue were 10 or so sturdy arenas arranged neatly. There were already many people gathered at the feet of the statue. An assistant beside Li Xiuzhu introduced, the second round of arena battles will be held in the Tianwu Plaza. The exact date has not been decided yet. However, you can rest assured. I know that you have fought many battles and will need to recuperate. It will not be held any time soon. When the group heard this, they relaxed slightly. They had fought 100 battles in 6 days. Furthermore, they were all high-intensity battles. Without sufficient time to rest, it would be difficult for them to return to their peak state. The people gathered at the feet of the statue were divided into 3 groups. If there were no surprises, they should be the outstanding talents of the other 3 islands that had passed the first round of selection. Xiao Chen swept his gaze through the 3 groups of people. He revealed a slightly astonished expression. Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, Chu Chaoyun, Mu Qingxue, and Hua Yunfei were all here as well. Unexpectedly, these 5 people were all medial-grade martial kings. However, after thinking about it, Xiao Chen did not care about it. If Xiao Chen had not cultivated a heaven-ranked cultivation technique and consumed a large number of natural treasures when he made his breakthrough, resulting in such a large number of cultivators, he would not be surprised. Now that Xiao Chen was a superior-grade martial king, there should not be any surprises. Furthermore, cultivation was never the only factor in combat prowess. Unless there was a difference in cultivation realm, for example, if Xiao Chen faced a half-step martial monarch, even the weakest half-step martial monarch would not be a match for him. Seeing Xiao Chen and the others arrive, the participants of the other islands looked over as well. I heard that someone obtained 100 consecutive victories on Longyang Island. I wonder who it is. He is not simple. The beast-taming abode Suemo is so strong. However, he only obtained 70 consecutive victories on the northern islands before ending in a draw. One of the 3 great experts of the Myriad Fiend Palace, Chu Mu, only obtained 60 consecutive victories. Unexpectedly, this person obtained 100 consecutive victories. He is not simple. The crowd started discussing in soft voices. They were all curious about this person who obtained 100 consecutive victories. Hua Yunfei looked around and his expression suddenly changed. He said to Mu Qingxue and Ji Changkong, "Look over there." "Who is it?" The few of them quickly looked over and discovered Xiao Chen in white robes. He stood calmly in the crowd. Ji Changkong clenched his fists tightly, cracking his knuckles. His gaze turned sinister as he said coldly, "Good, you came at the right time. I will repay you 100-fold for the humiliation you gave me back then." Mu Qingshua's expression was unsightly as well. When he sensed Xiao Chen's cultivation, he felt it was strange. He said, "He seems to be only an inferior-grade martial king, right? How did he get invited to participate in the ancient Desolate Towers competition?" Hua Yunfei mocked, "He probably got in because of his connections. Coincidentally, we can show him his true colors in the arena battles." Half a year ago, in the battle at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Xiao Qin had defeated all the major powers of the Great Qin nation by himself, becoming famous in one fell swoop. To these people, who had been regarded as the proud sons of heaven in the Great Qin nation since they were young, this was undoubtedly a great humiliation. The most important thing was that even before this, Xiao Qin had been a minor character that they could kill with a casual pinch of their fingers. However, 1 year later, he swept through everyone. With such a huge difference, no one would be willing to accept it. On the contrary, Duanmuking's gaze was very calm, there were not many fluctuations in it. It was as she said, the battle at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had resolved the grudge between her and Xiao Qin. If she kept thinking about it, it would only cause her mental state to become even more unstable. As for Chu Chaoyun, he did not hear the conversation of the crowd at all. He was staring at the Tianwu Emperor's statue, his expression changing unpredictably. Xiao. Just at this moment, a few old men descended from the tall platform. They were wearing the same clothes as Li Shuzhu, but there were 2 more golden lines on their collars. Clearly, they were of a higher rank. The leader of the group swept his gaze around, and a formless might spread out. The entire place immediately fell silent. The second round of selection will be held 10 days from now. I hope everyone will gather here at that time. If you fail to show up, you will be considered to have given up. Following that, the old man gave a simple explanation of the rules of the arena battles. Within 2 days, everyone would have to fight 30 matches. There would be 15 matches in a day. The victor would receive 2 points, the loser would lose 2 points, and a draw would result in 1 point. The opponents would be determined randomly by drawing lots. After the arena battles ended, the top 20 people would obtain the qualifications to enter the ancient Desolate Tower. After the old man finished speaking, he did not say anything more. Everyone returned to the ancient Desolate Tower and began their final push in the remaining 10 days. In 10 days, Xiao Qin should be able to reach great perfection in the firmament body tempering art's 4th layer. He should be able to open the remaining 4 acupoints on his left arm. In terms of pure strength, he should be able to reach 400,000 kilograms of force. If he combined it with his vital qi, he should have no difficulty reaching 500,000 kilograms of force. If he could obtain a superior grade earth-ranked fist technique or a peak superior grade earth-ranked fist technique, he would definitely be able to enter the top 20. Xiao Qin thought to himself as he headed out of the plaza. "Xiao Qin, wait up." Just at this moment, Xia Xian's voice came from behind him. Xia Xian said softly, "You should not have a place to stay in Desolate City, right? My 1,000-sword pavilion has a special branch in Desolate City. Would you like to stay there? I guarantee that you will be able to cultivate in peace." After Xia Xian spoke, she looked at Xiao Chen in anticipation. She hoped that he would agree. The strength that Xiao Chen had displayed was sufficient for him to enter the top 50 of the 5-nation youth competition. Xiao Chen was someone who could definitely obtain luck. It was just a matter of how much. Such a person was worth roping in for Xia Xian. Furthermore, Xia Xian was now an inheritor of the 1,000-sword pavilion. If nothing unexpected happened, she would be the next sect leader of the 1,000-sword pavilion. If Xia Xian established a good relationship with Xiao Chen now, when Xiao Chen grew up, he would be a great help to the 1,000-sword pavilion. Even without considering his strength, Xiao Chen's character suited Xia Xian's taste. He was neither arrogant nor rash, calm and collected. He was not the kind of person who would betray his friends. No matter how Xia Xian looked at it, such a person was worth befriending. Xiaoqin smiled gently and rejected, "Many thanks for your kind intentions. I am used to being alone." Xia Xian felt somewhat disappointed. She said, "Very well. If you run into any trouble, you can come to the Thousand Sword Pavilion to look for me at any time." After Xia Xian spoke, she gave Xiaoqin the address of the Thousand Sword Pavilion branch in detail. Xiaoqin nodded in agreement and thanked the other party again. He knew that this was a promise. Xiaoqin was indeed in some trouble now. He had not been in the ancient desolate land for long. Although he could use the 2 medallions to deal with it, that was a last resort. It was best not to use it. After Xiaoqin took his leave, he found a restaurant to eat. Then, he asked the waiter about a courtyard he could rent. Before the sky turned dark, Xiaoqin found a courtyard that he was satisfied with. The price was 2,000 inferior grade spirit stones a day. Xiaoqin practiced some fist techniques in the courtyard and practiced the wukuei saber technique. Finally, he took out 2 medial grade spirit stones and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. The vast essence in the spirit stones quickly poured into Xiaoqian's body. After a great cycle, it turned into a pure essence liquid and dripped into the qi whirlpool. Chapter 458. After 2 hours, the 2 medial grade spirit stones were completely drained. Xiaoqin opened his eyes and smiled bitterly. He felt somewhat helpless. After the purple thunder divine incantation reached the 6th layer, the amount of essence exhausted was simply too shocking. The 2 medial grade spirit stones had only turned into 10 odd drops of essence liquid. It looks like there is still some time before I can advance to medial grade Martial King. There is still some time before the bottle is full. Xiaoqin sighed softly and entered the room. He lit an oil lamp and sat at the table to read Bai Lishi's cultivation notes. Bai Lishi was indeed a genius at cultivating the physical body. The experiences in there were very useful to Xiaoqin. In the last battle, Xiaoqin had used pure vital qi. His cultivation of the firmament body tempering art had improved by leaps and bounds. The most important thing was that his comprehension of vital qi had increased significantly. This proved that what Bai Lishi said was right. Xiaoqin estimated that Bai Lishi's vital qi should have reached 1,000,000 vital qi now. Breaking a mountain with one punch would be child's play. Hence, Xiaoqin had to continue studying these cultivation notes. This would allow him to avoid taking unnecessary detours and waste time. Deep into the night, Xiaoqin did not know how much time had passed. The flickering oil lamp in the room started to shake violently as if it would go out at any moment. Xiaoqin looked out the window and sent out his spiritual sense. After a while, he withdrew it and put down the notes in his hand. Xiaoqin blew out the oil lamp and said indifferently, 3 million medial grade spirit stones will indeed attract some flies that do not care about their lives. 3 cultivators with withdrawn killing qi stood under a tree outside Xiaoqian's courtyard. Xiaoqin was very familiar with 2 of them. The person on the far right was the one who wanted to drag Xiaoqian and Xia Xian down with him. He was the second disciple of the Lamenting Valley's Valley Master, Mu Nan. The person at the side was Yun Ping, who had been mocking Xiaoqian and getting crippled by Xiaoqian in the first round. These 2 had a grudge with Xiaoqian. It was not surprising that they were working together. However, the other person wore black clothes and a black scarf that covered his face, revealing only his eyes, making him look quite mysterious. Mu Nan said somewhat worriedly, "Will we offend the Heavenly Extermination Union by doing this? He is someone who obtained 100 victories." A sinister look flashed in Yun Ping's eyes. He laughed coldly and said, "It's not like I'm killing him. I'm just cutting off one of his arms. What is there to be afraid of?" The black-clothed man nodded and said, "That's right. A genius that has lost an arm is trash. Would the Heavenly Extermination Union care about trash? As I said earlier, the 2 of you will split the 3 million medial grade spirit stones equally. I only want the other things. When Mu Nan heard 3 million medial-grade spirit stones, a greedy look flashed in his eyes. His last bit of worry completely vanished. He said fiercely, "I'll do it. Back then, this brat nearly caused me to get killed by a demonic beast. It is time to collect some interest from him." The three of them reached a consensus. Without another word, they quietly leaped over the wall of the courtyard. Just as they were about to rush into Xiao Chen's bedroom, suddenly, they discovered Xiao Chen standing quietly under a small tree in the courtyard. He was not surprised at their arrival. "I've been waiting for a long time." Ka Xie. Xiao Chen ignored the stunned expressions on Yunping and the others' faces. He instantly drew his saber, and a bright electric light shone on the three's eyes. The three of them were astonished. Originally, they were prepared to catch Xiao Chen off guard. Who knew that Xiao Chen would take the initiative? Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations, Clear Wind Chop. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he turned into 9 figures. 9 cool breezes blew in the courtyard, warming everyone's hearts. Retreat. When the three sensed that none of the figures had any killing chi and that strange cool breeze, they did not think too much. They drew their weapons and quickly retreated. "You think you can retreat?" Xiao Chen focused his gaze on Yunping. He snorted coldly and activated the blood flame shoes. Then, he flew at Mach 3. 5, dang! 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 Yunping knew that he could not retreat, so he did not bother. A determined look flashed on his face as he brandished his sword to its limits, blocking the attacks of the 9 clones from different directions. However, Xiao Chen's attack used the cool wind chop. One could only see the cool breeze and not the saber, making it hard to predict. There was no killing chi at all. Yunping could only rely on his senses to block. Soon, wounds of various sizes appeared on his body, and blood immediately flowed out. When Xiao Chen saw Mu Nan and the black-clothed man rushing over from the corner of his eyes, Xiao Chen stopped fighting them. The 9 figures merged back together. Xiao Chen moved back quickly, leaving behind afterimages in the air. He did not want to get surrounded by the other 3. In just one exchange, Xiao Chen had inflicted significant injuries on Yunping. The 3 could not help but feel afraid. "I'll hold him back, and the 2 of you wait for an opportunity to attack," the black-clothed man said sullenly with a grave and stern gaze. "Kill." Right after the black-clothed man spoke, he brandished his sword. Strands of pale white flames soared up from the sword, making it look very sinister in the dark night. "It seems like an extreme yin flame. In that case, I will use a pure yang lightning-attributed flame to completely suppress you." With a thought from Xiao Chen, the flickering electric light on his saber suddenly ignited, turning into strands of purple flame. Bang! The saber and sword clashed. The purple flame and the cold, pale white flame exploded in the dark night. The light flickered, making the dark night look like it was daytime. Yin and yang, 2 opposing attributes. When they clashed, the destructive power generated was very shocking. The air turned scorching hot. The chill of the night was dispelled without a trace. Yunping and Mu Nan took advantage of this opportunity to charge over. Xiao Chen did not panic. He dodged Mu Nan's attack in a flash. Then, he clenched his left fist and sent out a fist wind, forcing his opponent back. As for Yunping's attack, Xiao Chen saw through it with one glance. He smiled coldly and kicked his opponent's wrist first. Xiao Chen's wrist immediately shattered, and his sword fell to the ground. He did not stop there. He continued to kick his opponent's chest. Bang! Blood leaked out of the corner of Yunping's mouth. His body flew back and crashed heavily into the wall. Rage flashed in the black-clothed man's eyes. He did not expect Yunping to be so weak. He said coldly, "Mu Nan, why are you still hiding your strength?" Mu Nan did not say anything else. He casually threw the long sword in his hand into the ground and raised it up slightly with his palm facing up. When his palm reached his chin, he spat out a mouthful of turbid qi. The expression in his eyes suddenly changed, he was wailing in pain. Lamenting palm. Mu Nan shouted and locked his aura on Xiao Chen. Then, his figure flashed and he sent out a palm strike. When Xiao Chen sent out this palm strike, he felt a state of grief in his heart for no reason. It made him feel extremely depressed. Unexpectedly, he felt like he wanted to leave this world. What a powerful state. It can actually invade one's mind, preventing one from raising their combat prowess. This was similar to Bai Zhan's state. It was also a state of emotion. Unfortunately, it had not been comprehended to great perfection. It did not have much of an effect on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense turned into an ancient bell and rang in his mind. The state of grief that invaded his mind was instantly expelled. Wukuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Chen used a powerful move and temporarily forced the black-clothed man back. Then, he quickly turned around. Xiao Chen merged his vital qi and essence and clashed with Mu Nan's lamenting palm infused with his state. Just as the fist and palm clashed, the 8 acupoints on Xiao Chen's left arm exploded. Since you want to clash head-on, I will clash head-on with you. I will use my full power to cripple you with one punch. Xiao Chen's gaze turned cold. He gathered his dragon qi and punched with his left fist. Bang! 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 Before Xiao Chen's overwhelming strength, Mu Nan's palm strike, which was ineffective against Mu Nan's state, was knocked back by Xiao Chen. The might of Mu Nan's attack did not diminish. There were 3 crunching sounds and Mu Nan's right arm exploded into 3 pieces. When the black-clothed man, who had just broken the Wukuei shakes the heavens, saw this scene, his expression changed greatly. He had not expected Yun Ping and Mu Nan to be severely injured in a few moves. Yun Ping and Mu Nan had lost their combat prowess. Damn it! I should have known that since these two did not obtain 60 victories, they should not be very strong. Yet, I still sought them out to work together. They were blinded by their own benefits. Did they think that when the time came, they could take advantage of the situation and finish them off? Seeing the two unable to withstand a single blow, the black-clothed man thought in frustration, there is no more chance. Retreat! Flaming cross chop! The black-clothed man shouted and drew a horizontal line with his sword. A pale white flame immediately burned on the horizontal line. The black-clothed man sheathed his sword and retreated. Then, he drew another vertical line made of white flames. The two lines intersected and formed a cross. Then, he flew at Xiao Chen. The cross-shaped flame grew as the wind blew. Soon, it became incredibly huge. The black-clothed man did not even bother to look at the might of this attack. He turned around and quickly retreated. Trying to run? Do you think you can? Xiao Chen said coldly as he placed his right hand on the saber's hilt. Wukuei breaks the heavens. Xiao Chen shouted and brought out the state of thunder to its limits. The churning thunderclouds in the sky roared ferociously. Bolts of lightning tore through the night sky. A Wukuei tree quickly formed above Xiao Chen's head. The qi on the saber also slowly lit up. When the Wukuei tree was completely formed, the beam of light on the saber also completely formed. A boundlessly resplendent purple beam of light extended from the saber to the front. Bang! In an instant, the beam of light broke through the intersection point of the cross. The cross-shaped flame shattered and turned into sparks. They turned into sparks and swayed in the night sky like sparkling and translucent flowers. The black-clothed man in front was startled. He had not expected his trump card to be broken by Xiao Chen so quickly. The black-clothed man could not even block the attack for a moment. He could not help but increase his speed. Mu Nan lay on the ground. He had lost an arm and had lost most of his blood. He stood up weakly. Mu Nan quickly ran out of the courtyard. He did not even have time to bandage the wound on his arm. All he could think about was escaping. Xiao Chen looked around and saw the fleeing Mu Nan. His expression turned cold. Since Mu-nan intended to kill someone, he should have been prepared to fail. Die! A dark light flashed and the palm sword shot out. A bull-sized bloody hole appeared in Mu-nan's chest. He had lost all signs of life. On the other side, Yun-ping had already climbed to the top of the wall. His sternum was broken. Normally, he only needed to jump lightly. Now, he had to put in a lot of effort to climb up. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.